It's about that bottom line, baby.
Let's make it happen, Cap.
KB 65 is live. KB 65 is live. 07.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Star Citizen Live. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and this week's show is a special pre-tape show for our friends in Xi'an, China. As we do at this time of year, they have this big, giant, mega event with something like 2,000 people. I don't know. I've never been invited.
No, you have not been invited.
But a big event.
Probably not.
They submit questions. We go through questions. We pick the ones that we can address on the show. This year, we opened a thread up on Spectrum to the rest of the community to integrate their questions in. So we get questions from all around the world. This is our typical Fleet Week show where we take questions all about spaceships and spaceship gameplay and spaceship design and spaceship balancing and why haven't you made my spaceship the way that I want you to make my spaceship? Why? Why didn't you make my spaceship the way I wanted you to?
Don't want to.
Fair enough. So we're gonna dive into the questions right now. These were culled from both the list from our friends in China and from Spectrum. And right off the
I would have said, well, because we're building according to the manufacturer. It's just that simple. Many manufacturers, many choices. Make that choice.
we should introduce people. John, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
My name is John Crew. I'm the vehicle director here at CIG, and I look after all the vehicle teams, primarily the content ones.
Okay. Torsten, with a new title. Tell everybody who you are.
Now, I'm Torsten, Assistant Design Director at this point. And I look after still the system design team, tech design team, AI design team, so a bit more responsibility at this point.
And then it's the gameplay that
Everything.
sits at the center of the
AI.
Correct, yes.
game. Yeah. And Rich, certainly, welcome back. You know, we had some confusion
Towler.
about how you got here
Richard
before
Towler.
the showtime.
So,
Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So I'm Richard. I'm the lead designer with the vehicle experience team. So we look after kind of the vehicles, vehicle balance, vehicle gameplay, and work very closely with Torsten on just how the vehicles play in the game, basically.
So you got the people who make the ships, the people who make the game, the people who help the ships interact with the game, and somewhere in between all three, usually we can find an answer to one of these questions. So right off the bat, in no particular order, this show will probably be a little bit longer than normal, and certainly not better for being pre-taped. I think we've proven that already. We want high difficulty PvE content where players can team up for extended sessions. How will this be expanded going forward? Well, this seems like a very timely question. We've got the upcoming tactical strike groups. Talk to us about TSG.
Well, TSG will be introducing the need for different ships and for multiple players playing together, working together, and basically coordinating themselves and going in with like a big group to resolve the mission. I don't know how else to describe it.
yeah, we have a lot of ships in the game, and they all have very different roles. And TSG finally sort of brings together the requirements for person A in ship archetype 1, person B in ship archetype 2, and they can work together to complete the mission. Because TSG is not like
Take that.
do one thing, mission done.
Desync,
It's a
take
layered,
that.
staggered, sequential series of events that
Desync, take
one
that.
ship is not. You don't need one ship to do it. You need multiple
Take
types.
that.
So
Desync.
Using
Super
different types
important.
of
Take
gameplay,
that.
different objectives. We've had this concept. The PO's been around since 2015. That we're building this spaceship MMO, where you need to bring together fighters and repair ships and capital ships and bombers and stuff like this, and bring them together for a coordinated attack. We've had this promise for a while.
Missing
But a lot of our
Tech.
content, and I don't think I'm telling anything anybody doesn't know. A lot of our content tends to be very FPS focused. For this reason or that, as systems are being developed, as flight models are being tuned and retuned and stuff like that. Now, this is the first major step forward. We're not going to hit everything we want to do in this first thing, but TSG represents this first major step forward at these coordinated, extended PvE spaceship experiences for the game, and there's literally no content drop that I've been more excited about, which is why it was the centerpiece for CitizenCon Direct last year, to see it finally arriving here at May and tied in with a big fighting spaceship promotion alongside. I wish we could take credit for it. That was entirely happenstance. It's really nice. So it's a really exciting time for Star Citizen, and by the time this airs, people will have been playing it in PTU and stuff, and hope they're seeing the amazing work the team have been doing. With that, let's get to the majority of questions for a show like this, which is, why haven't you made my ship the way that you want me to make it? Comparing the RSI Perseus's in-game appearance against, I really didn't time that, against its original concept art, the original concept had a much cleaner look, while the flyable version features many irregular and unconventional design elements. How did the team envision this design evolution as you move towards production?
Okay, so part of that is just how things work during development. A lot of the older ships, so Polaris and Perseus, for example, the actual concepts of them are in 3D, but they're very low detail 3D, and then they have all the details painted over it in 2D in Photoshop or whatever. So when you actually come to put into production, you don't have any of that detail. You put the corridor pieces in, and they are just flat sections. And as any artist will tell you, that's not good looking. So you add these details, and the Perseus built on the lessons we learned from the Polaris, which we talked about many times before. We went with a sort of brutalist style approach to it, which we liked. Lots of people didn't like, so we wanted to sort of course correct a bit with the RSI style. So the Perseus are a lot more detailed in those corridors, and you'll see more of that evolving in with the Galaxy, although toned down a little because it's not military, it's civilian. So things that were amped up have been toned back down again for the Galaxy, but it's all built from that same kit style. And you sort of need that level of detail to make it look good. You can't just have flat walls that are the RSI trapezoidal shape. It doesn't work. So it's sort of as you're in there, you need to build and add layers whilst being mindful that it's not, here's this wall section that I've made as an artist, and I want it to be the best wall section I've ever made in my life, and it's going to look really great on my portfolio. And then it's repeated 30 times down the corridor. It just overloads everyone's brains and eyes. So it's sort of, you have that, and then you break it up with lower detail bits just to give eye relief.
Yeah. At scale, you need more irregularity.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the repetition becomes far more in your face.
When you have some of those corridors, it's less so with the Perseus, but still you have corridor sections that are 5-6 segments repeated. You need something irregular to break that up. Otherwise, it just looks copy paste all the way down.
There's also something to be said about new people who have joined the project since a ship was concepted. People come to the project and they come with new talents, new skills, new experiences. Technology improves from the time when something was concepted. And the idea that you just come in and just have to Control-C, Control-V something that was designed years ago, it's uninteresting to everybody. It's like we've all learned so much. We've all gained so much experience. Of course, we're going to apply that, to these ships as we build them, and that means changes will occur. And I think anybody, if I'm allowed to have an opinion, I have said this often, the ships today that are made today are better than the ships that were made last year, are better than the ships that were made the year before that. So yes, they may change so much, but I almost universally for the better. It's one of the few things I'll say are you can kind of just draw a line across. The ships get better every year. So that's a testament to, well, not you, John, but the people who are on your team.
The people that do the work.
Light fighters, medium fighters, and heavy fighters currently feel like their roles overlap. and their counter relationships are unclear. Will there be a rework to better differentiate them?
Short answer to that is yes. But the long answer is, they are relatively close. So, so our light fighters are actually pretty heavy and pretty big, themselves. So it's no surprise that that kind of range of ships, it does blur the lines. But, we've been putting a lot of work, over the past 12 months on the new flight model. And we're really working on how we make these ships interact with each other in different ways. So there's different advantages and different weaknesses in each archetype. Also, been working with Thorsten on the weapon balance and the armor changes, and that's going to really, that's already starting to have an impact on how these ships interact as well.
Yeah, actually, it's something that we discussed a lot lately in the vehicle leadership meeting that we all have, where we, so we need to treat fighters more as its own bucket. But in that bucket, we also need to treat the fighters differently so that there is a clear identity between the fighters. And this is something that we have been working out. The new flight model that Rich and his team is working on is also moving us into that direction, that there's a better distinction between the fighters. But something that also came out from the...
That's very nice to have this body of distinction, even though overall these are spaceships, they're fighters, but you have these distinctions that they're trying to define or working towards defining. That way it will better give new players definitions of what they may need or what they kind of gravitate towards once they get the opportunity to try out ships and understand and read the narratives of what these ships will be based upon. And so by defining these particular roles with these various ships, each will have their groupings and distinctions within that group. It makes for a better experience because then you can say, okay, I want to do this particular thing, but there's this more defined and granular detail pertaining to that particular ship and how you want to utilize it. So this is pretty good. They're moving towards a better narrative for ships in general.
Feedback that we receive with all the armor rework that we have been doing is because we have right now in the game, in 4.7, in 4.8, hopefully not anymore, this hard gap between heavy fighters and medium fighters and light fighters. So there's this, even a stop gap between medium fighters and heavy fighters. Mm-hmm. So we decided on that doesn't paint the picture of fighters because fighters have to fight each other rather than there's one sitting outside that is immune to light fighters. So one consequence of us discussing in there was also bringing that closer together, but still maintaining perceived differences between these fighters. So there's still a meaningful choice that then also
meaningful gameplay because it has a purpose.
All the content that we are doing now for spaceships, where you better bring a heavy fighter, but there are also opportunities for the light fighter.
Situational.
It's something we talked about before as well that I want to reiterate is that you don't do 20 hours of light fighter. I've done light fighter now, so now I'm going to upgrade my role or career into medium fighters and then heavy fighters. They're tools for different jobs. They're not linear
purpose
power upgrades. You can obviously upgrade, but it's a choice of how your gameplay is to go from light to medium. You could stay a light fighter for all your game time if you want and have a perfectly great time. You don't.
It's being selective based upon the ship's abilities. So there's a clear definition of what these ships gravitate towards or what they do distinctively, then you make that selection. Then you decide, okay, this situation, I need this ship. Gathering intel, I think that's per mission giver or prior to mission giver. You do recon, you get a briefing, you understand the parameters of the mission, and then you, with the better definition of these ships' roles and how they perform and what they do, then you select or you try to select the right ship for that situation. But what I would love to see is in that determination or prior to that mission being taken on, I would like to see variables that happen outside of just saying, okay, I'm going to script it this way. I'm going to use this particular ship. Sometimes it goes to the letter. It goes to the design. It goes strictly to how you thought it out. But then there's random situations that happen that occur that you are not prepared for. So how are you adept to getting out of that situation and succeeding in that mission? Or is it a failure? It's never a failure because there's always a learning experience. And then you say, oh, if I would have gotten this, taken this ship, or I've had this party with me, I would have a better chance at succeeding. So it's about the gameplay. It's about the experience. 07, I send it.
Need to go up the chain if you don't want
Yes.
to. It just gives you different opportunities and different experiences.
I don't think it was
this
John
big
Crew, though.
expectation when the F8C came out that it was just going to be the the I win button.
Yeah.
Everything.
That's a good point. The F8, it was a determination in the community's mind, or the narrative of, I buy that ship, I win. And when players were actually able to access it, well, that was a big debate and a big to do when it became available prior to the release of Squadron 42. It was the worst decision. It seemed to be, in some people's eyes, one of the worst decisions that CIG actually pulled the trigger on. But to the point of how this process is maturing, it's about getting access to these ships and using them in different situations and finding out or learning from those situations and that particular ship that you're using that it's not the win button. It is not the easy button to say, I can do this. I can succeed in every mission all the time with this ship all the time. Eventually, you will get bored and you will want to put this game down. Where's my sound? Sagareth 07. What's up with my sound, man?
You can obviously upgrade choice of how your gameplay is. Like, to me, then stay like fighter for all your game time. Perfectly great time. You don't need to go up the chain. You tune different experiences.
Yeah, big expectation when F8C came out that it was just going to be the I win button. It's not. It's not intended to be.
Yeah, that's it's something that we have been trying for ages already, that we want to have each category has its own purpose. Sometimes we are doing we hit the we hit it, and it's actually working out the way that we intend. But sometimes we have to do slight adjustments, and we are right now in the adjustment phase. Especially in the new flight model testing, we focus very hard on they feel great and they feel different. I'm actually looking to the future for fighters in our game, because I think we are on a good way there. We just need more testing. And
I heard some good things. I've seen some good
So I have
things
to
about
ask
the
this-
flight model.
This is my own follow-up here. Every
Feel of it.
time we bring up the new flight model,
Uh-oh, it's
you know,
polarizing.
this is starting to
Polarizing.
feel after many years now like like the Benny Hill song starts to play. When we talk about this new flight model is always right around the corner. It's always, well, we did that, and then it got us part of it, but then we learned more. That's part of having a testing environment in the middle of your development. We don't have to do it all at once. We can put a part of it out, test it. Okay, well, that's going to send us in a different direction. But constantly being sent in different directions, constantly having this conversation about this, and it can start to sound like noise.
Simplify
as it covers years.
07 FINRA.
I'm not going to ask when. We're not talking about when. We know that most of this work is happening in the squadron.
Not the
It's
when
like this.
word.
I'm going to ask you how you feel about the flight model.
Oh,
right now.
no.
Like you're in there, you're playing it. There's a question in here later about whether CIG staff play Star Citizen. You guys are playing it. You guys are working with it. You have to in order to test it. It's in massive testing with Michael Smith's team and that's what it is. How is that going? How are you feeling about it?
John Crew has no words. He's like,
I think we've got a really good flight model. But it's lacking some of the levers that we want to pull to make the ships feel different. To do the light fighter to heavy fighter, but also not just fighters, to make our large ships feel like massive ships that you're really pulling through, to kind of turn and move the ships around. So, I do think our current flight models are really good, and it's a really good testament to the team. But we've learnt so much since we've introduced it. But, I would see the new flight model as not just how the ships fly, but it's the overall flight experience that's going to kind of change drastically.
What does that mean?
We aren't going to rush out there and just put out a piece of the new flight model and not have the rest. So, we're kind of looking at this as soon as you take off in your ship, that is the flight model starting. And then you go all like the way to the full new, kind of quantum experience. And that's going to be the new flight experience, really. So it's not just a flight model and how the ship's flight's going to change. It's the entire flight experience is going to come as one kind of package.
And even that is just an ingredient, right? Because it's also like the bullet speeds that will change, or the weapon behavior.
I want to go back. I'm sorry.
Kind of change drastically, to kind of that we want to.
How is that going? How are you feeling about it?
So in the current game, I think we've got a really good flight model. But it's lacking some of the levers that we want to pull to make the ships feel different.
Pulling the levers to make the ship feel different. Speed is one. Weightiness is another. So it's speed and counter speed, or if it's fast or it feels weighty. That's different. Response time. That's different. Those are the feelings that you translate. Very crisp, responsive, very accurate in its control, delayed control response, tankiness. Those are the feelings. I think that kind of encompasses the feel of the ship, whether it's very responsive or not responsive. Very responsive, light, accurate, fast. Not responsive, tanky, heavy, weighty, large, or just dense with materials such as the hull, a tank. Another feel is how it flies in atmosphere. Another description of its feeling a certain way. If it's aerodynamically, basically if it's an aerodynamically designed ship, its ease of flight is much better than, let's say, a box. Or like, say, for example, an Anvil Terrapin in atmosphere, then the feel is less noisy for what feels more natural, comfortable for aerodynamically designed ship, as opposed to a box or a tank. Then you feel the more rumbling of VTOLs, thrusters, a constant You should be constantly righting the ship to keep it afloat. More fuel consumption, but you feel the roar of the VTOLs. That's, to me, the descriptions of the feel. To me, that simplifies it to those distinct things there. I can't think of anything outside of that would relate directly to how it feels, the translation of how it feels, right?
To do the light fighter to heavy fighter, but also not just fighters, to make our large ships feel like massive ships that you're really pulling through,
Heavy,
to
heavy.
kind of turn and move the ships around.
VTOLs, jets.
So, I do think our current flight model is really good, and it's a really good testament to the team. But we've learnt so much since we've introduced it. But I would see the new flight model as not just how the ships fly, but it's the overall flight experience that's going to kind of change drastically. So, we aren't going to rush out there and just put out a piece of the new flight model and not have the rest. So, we're kind of looking at this as soon as you take off in your ship, that is the flight model starting, and then you go all the rest. So,
wait a minute. This
our
statement
current flight
here.
model is really good, and it's a really good testament to the team.
Watch this.
But we've learnt so much since we've introduced it. But, I would see the new flight model as not just how the ships fly, but it's the overall flight experience that's going to kind of change drastically.
He said the overall flight experience. I'm guessing this based on his statement. I'm gonna let it play, but what it says to me is that they have ideas, or it's almost as if, to me, it's translating to me that the flight model, in terms of development, in terms of a process to put it all together, to me it sounds like it's almost like a modular or segmented process that they can interchange or strip out or adjust on the fly based on feedback. But they have it seems to me that they have the overall flight experience together, but they are standing by if there is good enough feedback and proof of that feedback, or valid feedback. Let's say that if they have valid feedback, then they can, in a modular way, strip out something or make adjustments to that portion. But I think essentially, like I said, the feel is based on it's light, heavy. The response time is your key responses. That's real world key responses. Supposedly, the Maelstrom system is supposed to be a part of this too. I'm curious about that because I've heard mentioned that with Maelstrom, and compared to the processes that they currently use, they handcraft the weights, which is inaccurate. They do their best to simulate that, but with Maelstrom, it is supposedly the Maelstrom system can accurately determine the weight and how the ship responds to the weight, whether it's cargo, whether it's possibly crafting of particular surface structures to, make them lighter, make them heavier, and then the consequences of that would be more damage or less damage, but you will take on more damage because you're not as agile or quick because you've increased the density of the hull. And so Maelstrom is supposed to accurately track these metrics automatically. Hence, it sounds very complex, hence why they did not, or they do not mention Maelstrom as of yet. And there's stages of Maelstrom that's coming in, destructive structures, possibly base building, but eventually it's going to move over to the cargo side of it with how it affects the weight of ships. And then eventually the crafting aspects with the Pioneer and crafting the materials to make a better ship or more denser ship or more faster ship, but with consequences interlaced with how you craft that ship, quality levels, right? But it sounds like I'm going on a little tangent here, but it sounds to me that they have segments that, with the overall flight model experience, they segmented it to a point where, based upon objective and valid feedback, they can make those adjustments.
So, we aren't going to rush out there and just put out a piece of the new flight model and not have
A piece. That was a key right there.
the rest. So,
And not have the rest. So we're not just going to put out a piece of the new flight model and not have the rest. That tells you right there. It's very close to a modular system in their process of they have distinct aspects of it that they can make adjustments upon. So as they make those adjustments, they can counter those adjustments in relation to the other parts that make the whole sum of what the flight model will become.
we're kind of looking at this as soon as you take off in your ship, that is the flight model starting. And then you go all like the way to the full new, kind of quantum experience. And that's going to be the new flight experience, really. So it's
he's basically saying you take off based upon the ship, its style, its makeup, and then you go from one aspect of just basically taking off, fighting, to traveling. So he's saying it's all about what that experience translates to that particular ship in all aspects of how you move across the verse.
not just a flight model and how the ship's flight's going to change. It's the entire flight experience is going to come as one kind of package.
And even that is just an ingredient, right? Because it's also like the bullet
See, there it
speeds that
is.
will change, or the weapon behavior. Let's even describe it more broadly, is what adds a lot to the experience as well there. And
like they said, the ingredients. They've just introduced the flight suits, which now you have to sacrifice and take off your armor or store your armor, and to put on the G-force suits to mitigate heavy G-forces that will allow you to push the levels of G-forces that would usually succumb you to unconsciousness. Now with these flight suits, you can do and pull these maneuvers. But here's the key I'm thinking down the line when it comes to crafting. Imagine you have the flight suit, you have the fast ship, you're pulling hard G's, and lo and behold, the way it was crafted will not allow you to do those things, even though you have equipped yourself to fly this certain way. But if the quality levels of what you've crafted is not commensurable to how you've outfitted your flight experience, then there is a penalty to pay, such as damaging that crafted ship with poor materials. It's getting interesting, man. It's really getting interesting. And I think this is the level that they're trying to go to in terms of what Cloud Imperium Games is bringing to the table as far as the simulated or the simulation aspects of this video game. Stay with me.
yeah, there were again a lot of discussions just last couple of weeks around what we can do to actually improve the feel, because there's CR wants this very cinematic combat that we are.
Oh, now that's another aspect of it too. Chris is a director. Chris is a movie director. He has not given that up. And, that's a good thing. That could be definitely a good thing. He wants you to play this game, but he wants you to have an experience of this game. He wants that experience felt. He wants these moments to be memorable. He doesn't want it to be routine. He does not want it to be mundane, too simplistic to where the point it's boring. He wants you to do the dailies and just be amazed by it. There's good in that. the pros and cons. That's the pros. The cons of that could be if it does not feel cinematic, if it doesn't pass the eye test, but yet it's fun. I don't know. Chris may say not good enough for him. So where's the consensus? Where does the balances out? I think that's where Chris, I don't know, maybe steps back a little bit and listen to the community in reason of saying, okay, this plays very nicely, but does it give me the cinematics? I would say it shouldn't be a hard answer. It should be they should be able to pivot from that point to say, let's say Chris says it's not cinematic enough, but the mechanics are there. I think there are elements and things that the other teams can bring to the table, such as environmental effects and things of that nature, that will lend to that cinematic experience. But I think that was the whole push of the reason why Chris wanted to slow things down, so that as you see, like in these movies, you're the hotshot pilot, you're in the dogfight, it's quick decisions back and forth, and in the middle of the battle, you're making adjustments to the ship's systems on the fly, and you make these adjustments to get you out of not just near death, out of danger, but you turn the tides of battle, you implement the killer shot, and you clear out of there, and that's bingo. That's what Chris is craving, with along with a beautiful backdrop. So it's going to be a balance. There has to be a balance, and it has to be other teams coming in to lend assistance to bringing the mechanics up to its highest potential, as well as the cinematic aspects, bringing it up to its highest potential, such as the effects and Maelstrom performing and allowing these things to happen on the fly in real time. But the public enemies number one is tech debt and desync, and that's what Chris is up against, because he may not get everything he wants in that experience due to the fact that there is tech debt and desync that is hampering the whole experience. But at the same time, he wants these larger numbers of these space battles, hence why we're scaling up with these larger ships. And I suspect that dynamic meshing, server meshing is not the total answer, even though we thought so. But lo and behold, instancing is starting to pop up. They're starting to really work on it to see if there's viability that will assist and help with mitigating the desync issues and the tech debt. But again, I think it's going to come down to the servers, and what does that mean for backers and that player experience.
Now getting closer and closer to, and that's the reason. I would even describe this as our red line in our iteration over all the flight experiences, flight combat, and flight changes that we have been doing over the years. It's like we always try to aim what ZR was envisioning, and there were always some information that we get additionally, and then we could improve a bit more on what we actually wanted to achieve. And I think we are now getting close to where we would get the CR seal of approval here. And especially we did some tests, was it last week, with some weapon changes that will not make it the way that we tested it in the game, because we are not ready for that yet, but we will do a step in between for that. That is increasing the ranges for weapons and slowing down the bullet speed. It gives already a more cinematic approach to all the battle, or all the
environmental, things to help to assist. And he said, Torsten's just expressed that, hey, the approach with this, increase the range, slow things down, and probably hit points, slow those hit points or the damage points down. You start to cause damage to the ship from a farther distance, but it's less damage. So I think the common denominator is time to kill has increased.
The fights, and it helps also tremendously with having, even though with lower speeds, it might sound a bit contradicting, but actually with lower speeds we have a more agile combat because we have to bring closer together. You are able to dodge bullets more than you are previously, so there will be some, or the goal for these changes is to have an agile combat in a closer range, which is exactly what CR wants for this game. And then with all the flight changes that we are working on, we are moving slowly into that direction.
Yeah.
And the reason why we have to move slowly, and it's not a negative thing, is it's something that we learned last year when we did all the changes at once for engineering gameplay in a one PTU cycle, and we learned, no, that was a bit too much. So what we are doing right now is we do these increments now to have I think we talked about that in some of the other SCRs, we have a very focused view on what we change, and we can iterate or we gather data untinted from all the rest that we did. So we know exactly when we put something out, okay, all the feedback that we receive is around that topic. For the next patch it will be, so we did some armor adjustment based on the feedback on the armor release in last patch, because we only did release the armor changes.
Armor changes, I was stating this, Maelstrom, maybe that's changed, maybe not. Maybe it's not the priority, maybe it's not ready, but maybe my source was wrong. I don't know, but I gotta dig that up where it states that Maelstrom can handle or give accurate weight variations based upon if you're carrying cargo or if you change the structure of that armor or the hull. That is an X factor right there in that process, where the Maelstrom system can alter the response of the ship within reason, right? You're not going to have a Terrapin. You can give it the lightest armor, but it's not designed to be to go toe to toe with a freaking a Hornet Ghost or a Gladius or something like that. It's not in that design matrix, but it maybe give it a little inline speed, but it's heavily exposed now because it does not carry its default armor. But it's getting interesting.
4.8, we will do some bullet speed changes, bullet range changes, so we will get feedback on that, and then we can iterate over that, and in the next patch there might be something,
changes are coming.
bullet speed changes, bullet range changes, so we will get feedback on that, and then we can iterate over that, and in the next patch there might be something new for flight behavior, combat behavior.
Yeah, they're all, I think it's always around the corner problem is for Star Citizen, it's all interconnected. Like, if you change flight speeds, you have to change projectile speeds, lifetimes, shields, like it all. And there's a lot of ships and there's a lot of content, and you have the PvE side, so you've got to do all the AI side, as well as coping with the player side, which a lot of this work was done in Squadron a long time ago. And compared to, this is Star Citizen Live, not Squadron Live, it's a very constrained scenario set. Like, we know exactly what the player's going to be doing or should be doing against who in what formation, and you can quickly iterate there. But when it comes to bringing that over to Squadron, bring it over to Star Citizen, you're 10, 50, 100 timesing the amount of work there to get that same experience at a larger scale. So it's
a balancing
act.
It
plays really nicely. Everything gels together really
Squadron
well.
42.
But we can't just like piecemeal parts out without some big drops like we did with engineering, where it was too much and then the feedback just goes everywhere and it's disjointed, so it takes a while to roll that out.
All right. So on some Origin ships, we can see landing gear with wheels.
So essentially, to sum it up, they are trying to solve it, but they're only utilizing parts. They're Frankensteining the process so that if it's alive and functioning, it's a part of that body. They try to resuscitate another part. It's dead on arrival. It stays dead. They go back to the drawing board on that particular part. Now, the piece, the resistance is what's going to happen when they have all those pieces, those living pieces, that, community for the most part has said, hey, this works. And you put it all together. Does that say that it all works well? That it will determine and it guarantees that it will all work as a whole? That is the question. That's where things will kind of like I wonder if it's either you love it or you hate it. It could be even more polarizing. But I guess the approach is if you like that if you like that small part of it, fine. You like that part of it, fine. You like that piece of it, great. And the last piece, you also agree that it's good. And then it all comes together. I guess the logic is it will work fine. It will be something that is more than acceptable. And I wonder what happens. That's the question. What happens when they actually piecemeal all these pieces together? Because essentially that's what's happening. And when it all comes together, what is the logic says, hey, you've signed off on this community. Now it's all one holistic, one entire piece, which now it is the sum of the flight model. Either you're liking it or you're not liking it. That's going to be interesting.
I just went into my Count Disco there. Blah, wheels. Yeah, see, landing gear with wheels. If the new flight model is implemented in the future and atmospheric flight becomes a fully realized option, would there be any possibility of switching to wheeled landing gear or even cooler ground effect hover landing systems?
I like the hover landing systems. This is the future now. You don't need that. You don't need the wheeled landing system. Not with, this is, what is this? What year is this of Star Citizen? You don't need that anymore. VTOLs forever. No, Jared. VTOL for life. But I would definitely applaud the hover landing system, or better yet, a more fleshed out version of hover VTOLing. So in other words, if you would take a Gladius, you would take a Arrow. In atmosphere, it has that inline direction, right? It can't stop on a dime. Whereas if it was something like, give me a VTOL ship. I would say a Prospector. It can turn on. It pivots on a dime. It pivots around because the VTOLs are vertical. And it can, like a land speeder almost. And then it goes. Now, I would love to see a hover mode as opposed to a nav mode. I hear you all going crazy now. No, not another nav mode, but a hover mode for VTOL-based ships who are handicapped anyway in atmosphere, right? So how cool would it be if you're being attacked by something like an Arrow and you can go down into hover mode and stay certain, just like the land speeders that we have, similar to that, but at a higher distance, but you can kind of scoot and pivot and, hover around and kind of like befuddle these inline aerodynamic ships, and then either they get tired, and then you can jettison off into out of atmosphere after that point. I would love a hover system in game, specifically for the box shaped ships that have the big VTOL engines that are not aerodynamically designed for atmospheric flight. I would love that. That brings welcome variation to me, in my opinion. I kind of thought that was the concept of the Santak Yai and all these other, and the Aopoa, those ships. I thought that was, that was one of the reasons why I bought that ship, and then it never transpired to be what I thought it would be. Totally off, but I thought it was spoken of that it would do that. So I hope they bring that back to the forefront.
The wheel side is something we want to do. It's not connected to New Flight Model in any way. It would be different programmers doing that. But yes,
Vehicle
we have
team.
a lot of Origin ships. I think most of them have wheels, as well as some other manufacturers. And
Vanguard.
in fact, Chris was talking to me about this very subject. Maybe he put this question in there.
Well, here's the. Damn, that was funny, Joe. He's probably right. Well, this is Chris. No, I'm not saying this is him pushing it, but Chris is an avid flight simmer like me. But he loves World War II style flight sims. So that's an aspect of what he loves. So for it to lend itself and be part of Star Citizen, I'm okay with that. But I just turned around and said earlier, hey, let's go with hover mode, right? This is the future. He's a simmer, man. I gotta go with it. He's a simmer, but at the same time, hover mode first, please, for the ships that are not atmospherically designed to fly like a Gladius or an Arrow.
About when can we get proper steering wheels and landing wheels on the Origin ships?
That's a lot.
Will there be more
Gold
alien
standard
ships
first.
with different roles? Currently, most alien ships are dedicated combat types.
I want to. Okay, I'm going to theory craft this. I want to see an alien medical ship where they use literally parasitic creatures that help heal you. Yes, like an alien leech that helps with blood circulation to help regenerate you back to health. I want to see an alien medical ship. John Crew, Chris Roberts, Aaron Roberts, Torsten, Richard Towler.
Yes, so this starts with the Raylan Alien Week in June. And I think we will see a couple more this year that are alien ships and not combat.
Couple more this year. An alien medical ship.
Torpedoes and missiles. I just leave it there. Torpedoes and missiles. Go, guys. Torpedoes and missiles sometimes have difficulty hitting targets. Their purpose remains unclear. I think their purpose is clear. I think whether they achieve it is unclear. And the reliability is very worrying. Will there be improvements?
So we have a big kind of missile rework, planned at the moment, where the core aspect of what's wrong with missiles right now is just it's really hard to predict where they're going to land because they're so quick.
Tech debt.
So we've got problem networking.
Tech debt.
The missiles are very small and agile. Like they're way more agile than the ships. So the inaccuracies you see sometimes are it's just how they are predicted to hit at the moment.
I would say this. I don't know if you would agree. If I was tasked with this and I knew that it was a networking problem, right? I would lend to the lore team. This would be my solution to that. If it gets into the proximity or radius of that ship, maybe based upon its size, its power, or its effectiveness as far as explosive radius, get it close to the ship. If it goes in that proximity of the ship, have various radiuses of the explosion. So when it explodes, a size 1 is this, size 2, size 3, size 4. Larger radiuses could be the key. And if you're dead center of that bubble, major damage, right? If you're in the middle of that area, some damage. If you're on the edge of that explosive range, little damage to none based upon the ship and its size and its density, right? So I would say a quick fix for that, due to the networking issues, tech debt, and desync, that's all a part of that, networking in general. Then I would say have this tier 1 all the way up to whatever tier, the highest tier, the radiuses should increase. And if you're in that radius bubble, there lies your damage and the effectiveness of the missile. That would be my approach. I would approach that to Chris Roberts and see if that would work for the time being. Until they get to a point where desync and tech debt would not be so much of an issue. At least you have some sort of metric that will give you some consistency and effectiveness of the missile. That would be my approach to that. Chris, hope you're watching.
And that prediction isn't hitting the mark all the time, but also it's to do with countermeasures as well. So I would say we've got a linear relationship right now, which is you do a countermeasure and the missile misses, right? But that's not the intended really goal of how the missiles work. We want more kind of clear kind of readability of where the missile's coming from. Because at the moment, if you've got a missile coming at you and you do a countermeasure and you get hit, it's bad, and you don't know where it's coming from. So we want a much more kind of clear kind of readability of where the missile's coming from. But it means we've got to change the flight of the kind of missiles themselves, because the moment the missiles fly in a kind of fully decoupled way, where they can change direction very, very quickly at the last minute as well. So again, it's that kind of predictability at the end where they do go suddenly go like this to you. But we want that to be much more predictable. So we want to slow them down a little bit, so you can actually evade them. But also that slowing down makes it easy to predict where they're going to hit as well. And then we've got systems. We want we kind of want to do stealth gameplay. So you can do things on your ship yourself to make you less susceptible to missiles. But we need all these systems to come together, as one big package of how kind of missiles work. But that's where kind of Thorsten comes in as well.
Yeah, actually we did some steps already to improve the missile gameplay. So not on the missiles themselves, there are issues that are even quite high on our immediate fix list for that. We don't have a feedback right now, visual feedback for that the target lock is completely done. So this definitely needs fixing. So we already started working on the UI improvements. There are reasons why it's not in yet. So we are still actively working on that, to getting all the changes across. But at least it will help for the initial missile gameplay that we currently have in the game. As Rich already said, the speeds of them are now with the updated bullet speeds for the normal weapons. They also unproportional again, so that means that this is definitely something we need to tackle afterwards. And for the stealth gameplay, actually we did some changes already around that. So engineering gameplay influences the EM signatures. IR signatures are also driven by the cooler functionality. So we already have player decisions impact the signatures. also with actually a shout out to Michael Smith there. It's basically his doing that we have. The cross section is only detectable now by active ping. So it's actually something that was brought up in our vehicle leadership meeting, and we just acted on it because it works out quite well. Has the downside though that the cross-section missiles now need an active ping, and there's also like some visual indicators missing. So we have a list of things we need to improve, even for the missile gameplay that we currently have in the game. But we also are very aware that the missile gameplay is the gameplay that we can improve a bit more even after these quality of life changes, because we have dedicated missile boats, we have dedicated ships with a lot of missiles on them, and we have to make it fun for missiles. It needs to be an exciting gameplay, and right now it's more like, and I'm very sorry to be that honest, but it's more like a side thing to do. The benefit though, and I have to advertise it, is missiles ignore the armor checks because they do so much damage. So if you have a small ship and you want to crack the armor, use a missile.
I would say, you know, bringing it back to the cinematics, you know, the different various explosions that you can utilize with the size variance and the effectiveness of those missiles, right? So you have the tiers, but then you have the quality levels as well. So you have the opportunity to provide cinematics or particular explosions along with its effectiveness to kind of help overall with how missiles are functioning currently, until they can crack the code of how do you figure out or mitigate around the desync issues and such.
It seems like one of the more difficult tasks, because if you have a ship with missiles, you want them to be amazing, you want them to be effective, you want them to be devastating, because they cost a lot to reload. CR is always on about you shouldn't be able to, replacing a missile or a giant S7 torpedo should cost you, a lot, just like it does in the world. So if it costs you a lot, they have to be effective. But on the flip side, if you're on the other side of that missile or a torpedo, you need to have options to defend yourself, to survive and whatnot. And it's no matter.
And it should be a panic moment, Jared. It should be a moment of when they launch that missile, that should be a priority of either evasive maneuvers or, this is specifically, I think, with the larger ships, the beyond medium, large to capital size ships. It should be holy crap, a missile launch. That should be a priority of the turrets as well as the fighters, to be aware that if that thing hits, it's going to hit, and it's going to hit hard.
No matter what you do, somebody is going to be like, yes, that's great. And somebody's going to be like, that is the worst change ever. Because there's no, it's very hard to find a middle ground there, because if you get killed by a missile, missiles are terrible. I should have had more things to do. There are a couple questions in here.
Missiles and torpedoes. He switched it up.
Where there's no lead pips on shooting down torpedoes and stuff. We wanted to make it easier to shoot down the torpedoes. But if you do that, then torpedoes become less effective. So this constant give and take is just.
Yeah, but even with the torpedoes, it's like right now with the lead pips, it's basically impossible because they are traveling so fast. So we have to reduce the speed again so that they feel also correct for a torpedo, because a torpedo should not target a small fighter.
Yes, it is.
They are meant to.
Everything's interconnected.
Yes.
If you mess with one thing,
there's got to always be this element of chance. Like you can't make it so that you can always shoot them down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because then they're ineffective. And you can't make it so that they always hit and destroy their target.
Well, I think what he's getting to, or what could be a possible solution, is you have to, it's that old catchphrase, no biscuit if you don't risk it, right? So the premise is, if you take that large ship and get closer into the heart of the battle and you launch that torpedo, that's a problem. As opposed to, I'm just going to fire one off from this far distance and I might just get lucky. it's always going to be a priority once it launches. But I think, with that said, yeah, the closer you risk damage to your ship, but the closer you are, the harder it's going to be for players to stop that that damage that's going to happen to a ship when you fire that torpedo. And I think it lends to say there's some sort of gameplay with the ranges and the damage that a torpedo can take. So if you're at a longer distance, put this into an equation. The longer the distance you are, and if there are players who are utilizing and understanding the priority and the danger of that missile that's shot from a longer distance, all hands on deck, put enough damage on that thing to make it explode. But the radius of when it explodes, those are caught in its radius. There is damage to be dealt, whether it's friend or foe. Now, again, let's take that and go forward. The closer you are, that capital ship who is about to release that torpedo on that other large ship, they're taking a lot of damage. Or let's say they know that they are at the end of their rope. They know that they've lost the battle. Kind of like the Wrath of Khan type of deal. They go in, they get close enough, and they fire that torpedo. And based upon a split-second decision of, hey, there's that missile, and we've been hammering on that ship. It's about to blow up, and it just launched that missile in close proximity. All of a sudden, they're doubling around and saying, we got to stop that missile. But because it's at a shorter distance and its level of damage that it can take, it's a devastating blow to that other ship. But it also was the key factor that allowed that damaged ship that was about to explode or die in that mission, it allowed them to limp away from the battle by jumping into quantum. There's your cinematic, Chris. That would be amazing.
Otherwise, so there's always got to be
07
this
bite size.
gray area.
Thank you for the raid.
Yeah, and
How
it's a
are
really
you?
fine balance because, like, it's got to make sense for both parties.
Bite size, I hope you enjoyed your stream. I hope you had a wonderful stream. Arcane 07, bite size. What were you doing in Star Citizen? Were you cargo running or were you refueling? Or was it something totally new? But thank you for the raid. Thank you so much. Holy smokes, a party of 40? Oh my God. Thank you so much. I got to get the sound effects on my thing going. I'm going to dive in this weekend. I got some time to stream, man. Feeling good. I can get on a regular schedule. The refueling system, yes. Oh, you're an expert. I heard that. That's awesome. What ship were you using? Was it the Starlight? Starlight, Starbright, Moms 07. Make everything all right. Yeah. Was it the Star? I'm guessing it was the Starlight bite size. It's a really cute ship. I like it. I think they did something really cool with that ship. Or was it the Starfarer, or was it the Starfarer Gemini, the military variant? I should have known. Yes. Oh, hello, Kimmy. Get up with the times. I know. I've been so much in work. I'm so out of touch. But you got your eyes on it. You're practicing for it. Yes. Yes. I am not mad at you. Oh, yeah. We got to do some training. Yes. Thank you, Coffee, for that. Bite size, you're always appreciated. And I can't wait for the new season of Lord of the Rings. Rings of Power. And there's a new Lord of the Rings movie, too. There's a new movie coming out. So, yes, I am hyped. Very cool. Really cool by screwing over Vulcan owners. Moms, I get it. I I thought of that, but it also it should allow them to make the Vulcan a sooner than later development path. But here's the thing: it needs those rearming. They need the rearming mechanic to work as well. August, what's going? Wait a minute, what's going on August? The Starlight. That's gonna be That's gonna be or what's going on? Oh, the series. Yes. Oh, August. I thought it was in July. That's the series. It's got to be the series, because the movie I think is in development. I think Peter Jackson has come back. But yeah, moms, we have Refuel. The rings, yes, the new one. I cannot wait. Moms is so hurt about the Vulcan. I have the Vulcan too, moms. They definitely need the rearm aspect. So what does that mean? Missiles, ballistics and missiles would be the rearming. How would that work? Do you deploy? Maybe are they talking about deploying drones, and they use some sort of beam or something, or touch the ship, and then it automatically has more missiles. It flies around the area of the ship that houses missiles, or it touches the docking collar or some sort, and then it magically reappears for the interior, like the Constellation, for example. It touches the docking or connects to the docking station or the docking collar, or it sends a beam to the docking collar, and then the missiles are generated. Probably the same thing with ballistics, and then the drone comes back. So you have to have some supply of the material, or the materials that will house missiles, whatever constitutes the missiles. You use the blueprint, reverse engineer it. It says here's the materials. As long as you have the blueprint, the material for the number of missiles and ballistics, then the drone pulls from the resources from the ship, the Vulcan itself. So that would solve, potentially, in an arcade version of rearming with missiles and ballistics. Refuel is already there. Oh, the other part, repair. So that drone, you have a drone for resupply, and you have a drone for repair. So you keep the materials inside of the Vulcan. So that would essentially solve those three aspects of the jack of the Swiss Army knife that is the Vulcan, the Aegis Vulcan. That would be really cool. Now that would be cool.
Yes, it's got to make sense to both people that are on either side of it, which is a really difficult thing.
Let me go back a little bit.
Can't make it so that they always hit and destroy their target.
This is a torpedo.
So there's always got to be this gray area of chance.
Yeah, and it's a really fine balance, because it's got to make sense for both parties.
Blast radius.
That what happened. If it hit or miss, it's got to make sense to both people that are on either side of it, which is a really difficult thing. Because it's a really hard thing to communicate. Because in real life, if you've got a missile coming at you, you have one option: press the button and go, evade. But if you get hit by a missile in real life, that's it. You're gonna go down, right? So it's just a question of balance, and it is really fine tuning, because it requires so many systems to come together. It isn't just a flight; it's the emissions and everything else.
Yeah, change out a time sync.
It's a really fine balance, which we get right sometimes.
Size 07.
Times.
Thank you.
But
Thank
overall,
you so
I would
much.
really say, and it feels like I'm repeating myself
07 by size.
with the decision that we
07.
do smaller changes continuously, though.
Yeah.
We are now way better suited for where we want to go, in comparison to where we threw in a lot of changes all at once in comparison to like how we worked a couple of years ago.
Get some pizza
So-
bite size.
By the time this airs for our friends in China, we will have announced the Anvil Odin battlecruiser.
Okay.
Our biggest ship that we've ever we've ever attempted to put into players' hands.
Oh boy.
A massive undertaking. It's twice the size by volume of a Javelin. You know, it's just huge. I say this because this next question is right to the efficacy of a ship like that. Currently, it is difficult for pilots and gunners to coordinate effectively.
What's the
Pilots
time?
have a hard time
I'll look
knowing
for
what
it.
their
I'll look
gunners
for
are
it.
targeting and what firing arcs are available. Gunners also struggle to relay continuous targeting for sustained attacks on a single vessel. Can this be made better?
So there are different endeavors we have around that. So there's one big that is more like globally for the game itself, which is all the social work that is planned to be improved. Because I think we talked even about that, was it last SCL, where it's like, yeah, for an MMO, our social aspects can require some improvements.
Yes, the social teams that Benoit's team is working on will be
Yeah.
essential to a huge part of this.
So that will also help a lot with communication on your same ship. So like
Social
the
tools.
voice over IP is always a topic that, like, if it works really well, it can be really good, especially on communication in close proximity on the ship. So that should help. But
Channels.
there are also like issues that we are aware of, and they sadly didn't
Check
get
that.
prioritized yet. But because of all the
Desync.
content that we now have targeted to multi-crew purposes, multi-group purposes, like the sharing of markers and helping at least communicating where to aim at, these are definitely something that we have on the list. There's
Oh.
also like all the
Sharing
and
of
they
markers.
sadly didn't get prioritized yet, but because of all the content that we now have targeted to multi-crew purposes,
Sharing of
multi-group
markers.
purposes, like the sharing of markers.
Sharing of markers. There is a true military ship called AWACS, right? Why not? What a great idea to have a Star Citizen's version of an AWACS. Okay, here we go. Okay, the acronym. It's spelled AWACS, AWACS. The acronym is Airborne Warning and Control System. Is a mobile long-range radar surveillance and control center for air defense. It is typically mounted on a specifically modified Boeing 707 aircraft and is designed to detect, track, and identify low-flying aircraft as well as high-level targets at significant distances. AWACS plays a crucial role in air defense by providing command and control of aerial engagements, ensuring situational awareness, and supporting various air operations. With that said, with that said, something similar or something that would work with Star Citizen is having a ship that, the Terrapin is one, maybe a variant of the Terrapin that could disperse probes or scanning or radar probes, little metallic machines that have blip pings or something that will broadcast to the org a waypoint or where they need to go. Especially it could translate over to like mining veins and large resource pools of whether it's derelict ships, minables. It will spew out one of those probes and it will give a frequency only the the org would see. Now, if you want to get into the electronic warfare of that nature, maybe a ship could be patrolling an area and detect that through cracking a code and realize there's a mining vein there, or there's ships that are of value. So there's the yin and yang of that. But yeah, it would be a great idea to have a type of ship such as that will set up probes or set up beacons that will allow orgs to be able to go back and forth to those said locations and pick up, and especially with the Ironclad and the Assault and the command module and the Caterpillar, you can set down that particular ship, leave it, disembark, go somewhere else, and another person in your party with the command module can, once it's full of material, you go to that beacon, and that other person in your org that has a command module picks that ship up and disperses and deposit the resources to said or predestined location. So it translates to mining, salvage, cargo. That would be really cool. Or a rally point, operations, or where can you rally to take on pirates or vice versa. I would love to see that as a ship. Maybe Origin can do it.
And helping, at least communicating where to aim at. These are definitely something that we have on the list. There's also like all the marker improvements that have been discussed at this point for 2 years that we are still working on. Also, like as with a lot of things, right? There's always a clash of priorities. There's always someone coming into the room and saying like, no, this is the highest priority now. So we have to shuffle things around a lot. But it doesn't mean it is forgotten. It is at this point just not today. It's maybe tomorrow. And
maybe 2
especially
years.
the marker work, I think, will help the most. Is making it easier again to share markers, share targets, having even a better visuals of this is the target that is supposed to be the target.
Yeah.
And gives, again, someone a role on that ship to be the person.
Yeah.
Do this.
Absolutely
Everybody do
essential
it.
for these capital ships, the Idris, the Javelin stuff. We've seen these images of the map table and stuff. Having there be a role that is, all right, that's our new target. Being able to click it and for that to go to every turret, gunner, and be like, this is your target. When this guy comes in front of you, that's who you're doing. It's absolutely essential. It's
insane to know that and understand that they don't have enough people, and they're almost probably at over 1,000 or at 1,000 developers in the studio, and they're only scratching the surface. They need so many people to really process all of this, and it's a constant balance of you put something in, you got to bug fix it, you expand it, the burn costs. Making sure that your developers are happy, giving them a competitive salary, all the above. It's play it for what it is now. The hope is that it will get better and better, and it will sustain itself based on how much fun you have and how you enjoy it, and how they continue to improve upon it. But don't sit there and say, well, I got these number of ships and I'm going to wait till this particular patch come out. And then you try to learn the game and then you're way behind the curve. Play it now for what it is and try to have as much fun as possible.
There are, for many people, and I'm going to include myself, people always ask, like, what kind of Star Citizen are you? Like, from the moment I learned about the project, I have always wanted to be the capital ship guy. I want to be the guy. I suck at flying, and I suck at shooting and all that stuff. But give me an overview of something, and I can make good decisions that'll help. Like that's where my strong point is. So that role that we're talking about here, being there at the desk and going, okay, it's gunners 1 through 6, your target's this. Gunners 7 through 12, your ship is this, and stuff like that is my dream, which is why something like the Odin Battlecruiser is very exciting to me. I just have to live long enough to.
Yeah, especially for
gosh,
that,
man.
we even have like
Oh,
very,
boy.
very clear long-term goals.
Yeah.
I think we briefly mentioned it in our Road to 1.0 discussion from Rich Tyra, where
It's in the Road 1.0 stuff.
yeah, so where we have this fleet management as an opportunity for you to do tactical decisions on your ship.
Yeah, and the social tools and stuff. It also just takes forever trying to crew these things. Where right now we've got the Idris out there, and everything, but finding enough people and getting your positions and stuff.
But
is a pain in the butt.
even on that, we have like some like improvements already in the works. That
Like what?
the teleport. I don't know if we should talk
Now-
about that though.
The teleport. Well, oh my gosh. I want the quantum system, right? The kind of you point in that direction, you fly to it. Could that not be the teleport system for me?
This is the show to talk about it, my friend.
Oh my gosh, man.
So we have right now, it's not signed off yet. So they are like, because we have to fit this work into the theme of Star Citizen, and it's like, if I phrase it now the way that I will phrase it, you understand why it is really hard to put it into the framing of what we sell as Star Citizen. It's the teleport to party leader, where we want to allow players to, in certain situations, be able to quick travel to your party group or your party hangar.
When you say quick travel, is it instantaneous? Or is it more akin to that new quantum travel mechanic? So, or is it literally agent smithing, right? Not the NPCs, but actually the person is agent smithing to a rally point that's around or near the org leader to set up. Is that kind of a quasi version of instancing, so that when everyone's ready, it generates you to your org member and you're ready to play. Okay, Twix, what are you doing? Let's see. 07 Twix, what did you say? I think it's a form of instancing. So kind of like what MMOs do, and let's say, here's the thing. What do you think is going to happen when they're already talking about before the end of the year or this year, we're going to get the Nyx system. And eventually Castra's going to come. Then eventually we're going to get Terra. And they want to go beyond 1.0. Imagine Star Citizen having 15 systems, and all of us in chat live in a different system, but yet we want to play the game together. We've decided we're in social tools and say, hey, let's go to this one location and let's play, okay? We're across 15 different systems, several jump points, and we gotta wait to get. You gotta hurry up to wait to get everybody in one location to the party. I have to say, in lieu of Star Citizen being a time warp as far as an experience, have you ever watched my streams when we gameplay? I at least put 3 hours in, at least. So maybe this war, Chris, I would say, wait a minute, we can't have the community doing this. If we're going to party up, org up, whatever the case, let's instance that situation. Maybe it's instancing. Maybe it's a form of instancing. Coffee. It allows you to put most of your time into the gameplay as opposed to 70% is the travel time. We get it. We know that Star Citizen is all about the distances, the real no cut screens. That's a wonderful thing. But when you're talking about getting into the game and just, hey, let's form a party, let's do the Siege of Orison, but yet we have 10, 15 systems now. This is wonderful. I agree. This is wonderful. It is a flip, but at the same time, Coffee, people are flipping. They're flipping fingers and say, "I'm not going to do all that." And I've spent 2-3 hours just setting things up, and we're just trying to get together. And maybe it is a game changer for Desync as well, Coffee. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's putting your party in the group in a specific location, and they let you play, so it helps to keep. I think there's it works with better organization of meshing, server meshing. So you have a group here, it's instance, so it's closed in, and you're gonna enjoy yourself, get into the game, and start playing right away. So some arcade aspects, obviously yes, but for the benefit of having more time spent in gameplay and hanging out together, that's a win.
And then be able to go on a mission. So we want to reduce the time for you to gather dramatically with this feature.
Yes,
But
because because the system's footprint is getting bigger, the volume of players are increasing once we really hit we get into the dynamics of meshing. Literally, the dynamics of meshing. Well, that's to your. That's interesting that you say that, Coffee. It really makes it meaningful. Death of the Spaceman. You don't happen to die on the way, or you get attacked by pirates, or something happens where you're going through the jump tunnel. There's less likelihood of you dying in the event of trying to get to that central location. Now, the meaningful death comes from, hey, I'm in this situation with my crew, and I've happened to die based upon the situation. Then that's a valid Death of the Spaceman game mechanic, as opposed to I'm trying to jump across 10, 15 systems and this happens. Holy crap.
it's a bit challenging.
Yeah, it's challenging. At first glance, it seems against the ethos of Star
Correct.
Citizen. So, and that's why he's saying it's not a signed-off feature. It's a. You've heard me say it. We have the same conversations here that you guys have out there. Just
Let's test it. Let's put it in tech preview and see how it does. Why not? Why not the lower depths? It could be an instancing of the lower depths and see how that comes across. It's kind of like we're seeing it in Arena Commander and Arena Commander. Your instance. I think they're getting that mechanic and utilizing that gameplay feature. So I'm thinking it's something derived from Arena Commander.
3 months earlier, and probably just as contentious, to be honest. But we have to explore those things, even if we never do it, even if a teleport feature never comes into Star Citizen, and it may not. Guys, we still have to discuss it.
We got to
We have
try
to
it.
discuss it. We have to explore it. We have to build a prototype. We have to try it. We have to
Tech
try
preview.
anything that can make the process of getting into the game and
playing
playing the
it.
game
Yes.
more enjoyable.
Well,
More
playing
effective
more.
has to be considered.
Just playing more,
that
Jared,
has to be that
in a
has to be a
group.
major priority, especially as we go towards 1.0.
Identity
As you go
crisis.
towards 1.0, that priority becomes more and more important. Making the game accessible, making it possible for people to get in and do the things that they want to do. So there may be some things here and there that are like, well, that makes it less like a space sim. Sure, but it makes it more like a fun game that more people can.
I think this is the thing we have to adhere to and stick to, everybody. that dial, it can go this way or that way, right? That's the dial. One side of that dial is simulation. The other side of the dial is arcade. We have not dismissed that. We know and understand that. But in reasons of making sure or ensuring that we have most time spent in enjoying the game, I'm all in for this. Let's give it a try and say, wait a minute, can I also, let's say it's successful. Maybe you can instance the aspects of, hey, I'm at this location and we can search around and do some mining or some salvage, right? But then there's the other aspects of maybe there's some advantages that they, or dangling carrots above our heads to say, now, if you jump in your ship and you do the exploration aspect of mining, salvage, there's some advantages of that. There's incentives of that. Yes, I'm following you there, Coffee. Yes, Agent Smithing for sure. I think now it's appropriate. It's the appropriate timing for it, and it could be some things that it could be reasons behind that. The backlog, the grouping everyone together, and then having your instance in play, and the server meshing can function so much better that way. So it's not calculating the group as a group and they're all over the place, 10, 15 systems across, and they're trying to converge in this one central location. It probably bugs the crap out of the servers, right? It could potentially, or it could help tremendously how dynamic server meshing operates. That could be some of the key things that they're not mentioning. They're not going to mention all the things and or the reasons why they want to implement things, but we can only surmise and guess or come up with, hey, that might make sense on the back end.
So
One of the lots of people complain about lots of things, but one of the common
Exactly.
ones is just the time.
I want to see you get into free flight and laugh all night. That you cannot quantify, Coffee. To instantly get in there and do free flight and you're laughing and having a great time. And then you can say after 2 hours, you say, okay, I'm out. I got my gameplay's worth. As opposed to you're putting 2 hours in just to get together. Hello. There lies a value in that, Coffee, because our time is so valuable. I mean, we've waited since 2012 to get to a point where the game is playable. We need that gameplay now.
It takes for you and your friends to go do something in Star Citizen, and we share that pain as well. So
Yeah.
not everyone has.
Let me
2 or
not
3
gloss
hours
over John
to
Crew. He
play the
made a
game.
great
Some people
point.
might do something
John
in
Crew
Star
just
Citizen.
made a great
here
point.
and there, they're like, well,
Listen,
that makes it less like a
great
space
point.
sim. Sure, but it makes it more like a fun game that more people can play. So
It's one of the lots of people complain about lots of things, but one of the common ones is just the time it takes for you and your friends to go do something in Star Citizen, and we share that pain as well. So not everyone has 2 or 3 hours to play the game. Some people might only have an hour. You don't want to spend half an hour, 45 minutes of that time
No, two,
getting
John.
everyone together. Some people do. not everyone does. And then spend 15 minutes quantum traveling somewhere.
Right
what do you
here.
want to say, Torsten?
It's a bit more.
Yeah, a lot more. Not a bit.
It's being kind. We recognize some of the challenges, and
Straight
I
up
think
line.
if anything can always be taken away from these shows, it's an acknowledgement that we recognize those challenges and that those conversations that happen out there are happening here, and that the people here are doing their best to reduce those things and make them better. I mean,
But is this not choice, people? You're not forced to do those things that Star Citizen is set up for, such as the long space travel. There are those who prefer that simulation side of it. But if we're like on a schedule or one of our members are like, hey, I got a couple of hours, I'm like, bet, let's go. We will make that UEC. Let's go after it. Let's get it.
It's about that bottom line, baby.
So basically, we can get together right away. And then he's like, hey, I got a little more time, but because we made some strides here, let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
I was just in a meeting. Gosh, last week with Ian and Aaron and Sandy talking about the tutorial. What we can do to improve that, because you never rest.
The tutorial. Give it to community members who are adept and specialize in certain things. I would not be opposed to that. You won't see me doing it. I'm talking about the more knowledgeable community members out there that I think that would work. And Chris's stamp of approval, CR's approval, right? Sign an NDA that they're not looking to say, hey, you're using my likeness and it's going to cost you. I'm taking you to court, this kind of stuff. Sign the NDA if you want to do it, and lend yourself to be that crafter or that miner or that dog fighter, and amalgamate it, put it together, and say, hey, this is so-and-so Star Citizen experience. Do it. Why not? The community, who's best to do that other than the community? I'm just saying.
Yes, we have to make new stuff. We have to make new stuff. New things to do, absolutely. But we also cannot forget that this needs to be a playable and enjoyable experience through and through. And there are quality of life fixes. There are older systems that can be updated, that need to be updated to help us. And then there are interesting ideas that at least have to be explored, like the teleport to party leaders.
Arena Commander does it, and there's no
positive me speaking now.
Wait a
but
minute. Hold on. We do it in damn Arena Commander. What's the problem? Oh, it's not Star Citizen. What do you mean? You're in the ship. Now you can actually crew up, put people, select number of people in a particular multi-crew ship and multi-crew in Arena Commander. What's the problem? Or your instance in a map and you're doing FPS with your org mates and other members to do training. What's the problem?
I think we have a good idea of how we can make it fit for Star Citizen. And I think you will still, like, the way that is being discussed is you will have advantages still if you do the travel by.
Okay, sake of argument. Here's how you do it, Torsten. I'm going to go ahead and knock it out the box. Let me go ahead and Chemi Theory craft this thing. All right. Let's say we all in chat. We want to do Siege of Orson. We're all decided, hey, this weekend, this Friday evening, we're going to do Siege of Orson, right? So as we log in, we see each other in the party or the social tools. We link each other, right? We're all linked. And so as opposed to just going into the game as like you log in and you go best or whatever, area 18, whatever the case, you have another selection that says org up. Org operations, and you click org operations and you see everybody in your party. The party leader links them. You click the button and your instance right there at that point. You're in the game. What's the problem? Let's go. Stop playing games. Let's make it happen, Captain.
Let's make it happen, Cap.
Yourself, but we are very, very aware that not everyone has 3 hours for a gameplay session, so we want to tailor to those. And yeah, happy to talk about it once we are.
Torsten, introduce it into the social tools as a mechanic that when you are linked up, you're online together, you decide to do a mission, you can pick and choose of a library of the instanced missions. I'll go back to Siege of Orson or a mining op. I don't care, a mining op or on the moon. And you log in, you're all at the space station or something of that nature. You come into the game, you have where you can pull up your ships, your hangars, whatever the case, or you have an instance hangar that's shared. I don't know. or maybe it's a bigger facility that have several hangars in it, kind of like a Area 18. Done. Let's get it done, man.
Signed off on that, but
Fair enough.
yeah.
Fair enough. Many key career scenarios still lack corresponding ship types. Careers. Okay. So, are there plans to fill these gaps?
Yes, I mean, it's a very short answer. We've talked before about we have a huge matrix of size, class, manufacturers, and we want there to be options in every one. We don't want there to be a singular, like, if you want to do, let me check
Origin.
size and role, this is the only ship for that. We
Yeah.
want there to be a pool of ships to pick from, so
Well, this is a no-brainer, right? You here's the thing, Drake, oh, it's piracy, right? And now I think it's about maturing the manufacturer. It's about the manufacturer in themselves are not limited to one particular thing. These are massive communications. These are massive corporations that have massive amounts of resources that whatever that manufacturer over there can do, I'm claiming that I can do it better. I have the same or similar path to do a particular thing, such as mining or salvaging, whatever it is. There's multiple simulations among the manufacturer, even though Robert Space Industries were the originator because they were the pioneers, but then other corporations started to adapt themselves to that narrative and say, I have my offerings as well. And that goes, for me, when it speaks Drake, it's not the thing of you lock them into piracy. I like the utilitarian side of Drake, but because it is so accessible by the public, the bad doers tend to, gravitate because it's easy, it's expendable. You can do your dirt and get out of the ship. But with that said, I'm on a tangent there. I just had to throw that in. But to the point, each manufacturer can perform the same functionalities, but they do it in their own style. Why not? Let's go. At the end of the day, Cloud Imperium is a business. At the end of the day, the community is passionate and they love their ships. They're guided by their particular brand. You'll never see an Origin owner get caught in a Drake ship unless he was a prisoner. And he would swear that, hey, kill me now. You see me in this damn Drake ship, kill me now. He can be a prisoner. He or she could be a prisoner. Kill me now. But yeah, let's do this. Let's make it happen. Let's get it over with. We know it's a business, CIG. Make your money so we can improve and continue to improve the game. And players, the community, can stay passionate about their branding.
even though we have gaps in some areas that we will fill, even ones that are filled, we will still expand it. So I don't know. Let's pick heavy salvage. That's the Reclaimer at the moment. The Reclaimer is not going to be the only ship ever that fits that category. If you don't like Aegis, what are you going to do? Do you want something maybe RSI or Argo? They do the same job, but people are very attached to that manufacturer aesthetic and lore.
You gotta look cool.
You gotta look cool doing spaceship stuff.
You gotta feel good about your spaceship.
Like you have very polarizing fan bases for manufacturers, like a Drake ship and an Origin ship that are doing the same role. Under the skin of it,
Origin
are probably
won't do
doing that
salvage.
role identically, but how you visually perceive them is two very different experiences.
Now that's for careers and gameplay that exist, but I think the question was actually sidestepping to careers and gameplay that doesn't exist.
Now, here's the thing. They gave me a good idea when you talk about a Drake salvage ship and an Origin salvage ship. The difference is the Origin ship does it cleanly. They use these super compilers that heats up the ship and disintegrates it into its base element, and pulls it in, right? So it's clean. Superheating lasers or something, it breaks down, the materials in one fell swoop. They don't scrape. They just atomize it and basically put it into a cargo box, a clean white cargo box. Pure materials. I don't know. It's something to think about. It's interesting.
There are ships out there, waiting to be developed that don't have the corresponding gameplay features or something like we'll just say the Banu Merchantman right now, because there actually is not a Banu Merchantman question in this thing.
Very surprising.
You guys picked the questions. I didn't pick the questions, but there isn't a Banu Merchantman. But we know that the merchantman needs things like the shop, like player-owned shops. Like you have to be able to set up your own shop and stuff. Otherwise, what's the point of having a giant merchant ship that you can't merch through? So ships like that are held up less by the tremendous art time, although it is a tremendous amount of art time, and that is a holdup, let's be real, but also by the gameplay requirements. I don't remember where I was going with this. It's hard. I think the question was more asking, what about these gameplay roles that still aren't developed yet? Is there anything any hope you can give us for?
I'll throw a bone regarding the UI for the Banu Merchantman. Its merch that it sells. The player or the owner of the Banu Merchantman can in real time alter or change higher and lower the cost of the said materials or resources that they're selling, and there should be a bidding kiosk or a UI that says, I'll give you this, can we make a deal, yes or no, or denied, accept or deny, and then it's sold at that price, right? So I think on the levels of just mundanely, like any other system, you go in and buy it, it doesn't give distinction to the Banu Merchantman. In other words, Banu merchants, it's about bartering, it's about price adjustment, price changing, price hikes, lowering prices on things that are not moving and trying to move your product. And it's a constant monitoring or addressing the customer and selling and making adjustments on the price. So it's a constant barter. There's some meta work that's involved, right? That it requires that, maybe you have a master kiosk where you're seeing that the borrowers are making price adjustments to say, I'll give you this for this, or trading as well, trading of items. Not just UEC, but the trading of items for another item. That would be amazing for the Banu Merchantman, and that's my bone. I've thrown it in 07.
For the future is without giving dates, stuff like is there an outstanding gameplay role that has a higher priority than others that might come sooner before others, maybe?
Actually, there's right for crafting. We have one element that we have been talking about that it is still missing. I think even in the last episode we were talking about refineries. And
hallelujah, Torsten. Where's the Expanse, man? I gave up on the Expanse. Where the hell is the Expanse and other ships like it?
Definitely.
And Torsten, we got to get that for the Galaxy, because we probably won't have base building. So at least we'll have the medical module, tier 1, right? We'll have the cargo grid, and then we should have the refinery. Torsten, if you can do that for the Galaxy, man, you will be a legend.
There is one that is very high on our list, also because we sold the Expanse.
Yeah.
And
yes, sir.
There are other ships that have refineries built in.
Yeah, so there's the
Galaxy.
Starfarer that has
John,
a
that's the
refinery
Galaxy.
on it, and it like the benefit of us working on it opens up a lot of things, right? So there's also, like we talked about, base building
Crafting,
already. So us working on refinery not only finishes or adds
Adds.
another very important element to crafting. It
you
also
go.
opens up for ships to be developed with that, and base building allowing us to have.
Do not sleep on Torsten, man. The dude reeks of passion. He looks serious, but I'm feeling that passionate vibe from him.
Refineries at those, and then the station refineries also get more depth.
And it's sort of a lot of the ship gameplay loops that we don't have at the moment also tie into base building. Like we'll go back to the Merchantman example.
Yeah.
Needs player-based shops. You need that for base building as well. So you would have I guess a module, but I can't remember what the correct phrase for the individual like building archetypes is. There would be a player shop one, and that will work the same way the shops would work in the ship. So you do one, you get both, and it's the same for a refinery. You have a refinery on a ship, you have a refinery module on your base. Ground extraction in a ship, ground extraction at your base. They sort of build from each other and adds like, maybe I don't want a ship to do this. Maybe I just want to have a base set up to do all these things. You're not forced one way or the other. You have multiple
5.0.
options.
And especially with all these features, right? So refinery is definitely very
5.0.
high on top of our list of priorities that we work through. Like the shops is also like, because we see the interest also with crafting, that there's this high interest on allowing players to comfortably trade
Player
their-
trading is
Yeah.
Trading,
the
yes,
resources.
there
so
we
that
go.
is also
Vanity
like quite
Merchantman,
high on our
trading.
priority list. There are things that are now impacted by the feature work that we have been doing and what we observe in the community, where the urges are like higher or lower, and the benefit of us like being a bit agile in these situations, we can adjust some of our priorities. We still have like a plan for until 1.0, what we have to reach, but within that plan we can shuffle things around a bit at least.
And I would agree with that with Torsten. I would have to agree with him because you're talking about meaningful gameplay, and then you're saying, okay, what's left for 1.0? And then you see something right there. You see some low-hanging fruit, some low-hanging delicious fruit, and you say to yourself, I'm grabbing the fruit, I'm taking a bite, but yet my eye is still on 1.0. That is very acceptable when you discover or branch off to gameplay that will enhance your experience and will want you to engage and come back for more. Yeah, 1.0 can still be on the pathway, but if it's something that's worthwhile, by all means pursue it, because it's only going to make the game better. So it's this whole saying, try to learn to enjoy the journey on the way. You say, people say, when I get $1 million, I'm going to be so happy. Try to be happy right now with what you have. And then when you get that $1 million, you're like, I'm ecstatic. So it's a mindset. Enjoy. I said this earlier. Enjoy what you have, play what you have, learn to enjoy it. So if we can get something like this and we're still moving towards the path of 1.0,
It's about that bottom line, baby.
Let's make it happen, Cap.
Priorities one thing over the other, but also like the repair gameplay now with all the engineering gameplay work and so on and so forth. Right now it is very exclusive to the hand tool. Now with 4.8 we have the ing hanger repair for the capital ships, so that's also like a small addition already. So we now have that for as a gameplay feature for ships. But there's also the dedicated repair ships. I personally try to avoid as good as possible, and John and Rich can confirm in the vehicle leadership meetings. I try to avoid that because like we have some plans and I really would like.
Oh man, he just turned red as a beet. He almost revealed something. Was that the Vulcan, maybe? Or could that have been the Crucible?
Like to invest some time into that. But right now it's like with all the, like I really would like to finish the crafting stuff first before we tackle into that. But that is me saying that. That doesn't mean that like
Vulcan,
at some point someone says,
Crucible.
no, we now need a repair ship and then I have to shuffle things
He
around.
just said it. Read between the freaking lines, man. They just said it. Holy smokes. I want that Crucible, man. I want that Crucible.
Torsten always tries to avoid all the repair questions I give him, but
Oh,
if we talk science module for the Endeavour,
Did you
he's-
see? Wait a minute. Did you see John Cruz's eyebrow go up? He's like, get the hint.
What I will do
He's like,
about
get the
that
hint.
science module,
Watch
and I can
this.
go free. I'd like to finish the crafting stuff
Watch
first
his
before
eyebrow go up.
We tackle into that.
His
But
left eyebrow.
That is me saying that. That doesn't mean that, like, at some point someone says, no, we now need a repair ship, and then I have to shuffle things around.
Torsten always tries to avoid all the repair questions I give him, but if we talk science,
Right there. You saw that right there. Woo!
Torsten always tries to avoid all the repair questions I give him, but if we talk science module for the Endeavour, as research,
I still want to strike a deal with no one checks what I will do about that science module, and I can go free. That is a deal that I still want to do. No one,
Passion.
everyone
He's
disagrees.
passionate, man.
Everyone is afraid.
That's the sound of 1,000 people melting 1,000
Torsten-
endeavors right now.
Torsten's like,
Like I really want.
he really does want to.
I do want it, yes. But
The before we get off
Yes.
refining, so obviously you've got mining and you've got salvage and you've got crafting here. Is refining
Mining,
another thing at that level, or is it like a sub level that just kind of goes across everything?
it's a sub
so if
level
you mean
and that
if
level.
it is a full profession, we treat it as a full profession.
Okay.
So it has the depth as crafting has. Yeah.
Well, okay.
Very
So
nice.
there,
It's
so there will be
another
people
level.
like I'm going to spend today refining.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm going to go and those are going to be gameplay and all the things you need to do.
There should be a reason for you having a dedicated refining ship in comparison.
Value.
Cool.
That's the reason. Value.
Are suit lockers? Just leave it there. Suit lockers. Are suit lockers in ships getting any closer to becoming a thing, especially with the upcoming feature of flight suits being necessary to be able to handle more G-forces?
That's a lot, man. I mean, because depending on your ship and the storage aspects of the ship, is that a modular thing that they can, once they create it and they connect to all these ships that can handle or have those lockers? I wonder, will it cause bugs?
Yes. So from a vehicle content side, we have started the work to make sure they are all up to spec in our ships. So we have the prototype for what will hopefully be the initial rollout of functional suit lockers. Obviously, we have suit lockers in all of our ships, but they're just, I think most people use them as temporary jail cells for people at the moment. But again, I don't want to speak on behalf of the feature team doing the work, but we have got our templates there, and we're going through all the ships and checking that the volumes are correct and you can interact with them in a quick and clean manner.
Very
Because we
nice.
don't want it to be, you go to your suit locker, press button on the door, world's slowest animation of a door opening, you interact, swap your equipment, and it goes back up again. So there's a few ships where the doors need changing or just removing. And hopefully in the initial release of that, which I'm not going to give a date for, there will be a pretty
4.9.
comprehensive selection of ships supported. Not every ship has suit lockers. Not every ship is going to get suit lockers. So it's sort of a,
Multi-crew.
if your ship has suit lockers now, it's going to support it, hopefully. If you are in a ship that doesn't have any anywhere, there was probably a reason it didn't have that, and we don't particularly want
Force it.
that
Don't
level
force
of
it.
gameplay there with that ship.
We'll get you the ship that can do
It's
it.
the whole, not every ship is supposed to do everything.
Yeah.
It's there's supposed to be choices.
Yes.
There's supposed to be sometimes some hard choices. That's intentional.
Yeah.
Game design.
That's fair.
Speaking of hard choices, will the Caterpillar ever be given the ability to have detachable modules and ability to be outfitted for different scenarios like it advertises on the website? Or will we be looking at a Mark II version in the future?
Again, speaking from my point of view,
Old and
I
then
don't
Mark
want to
II
Mark
it.
II the Caterpillar. I want to pretty
Whoa,
much
thank you for the
fully
follow,
redo
Ruffers.
it to its current state, not
07.
as a Mark II, and give it the modularity. So we've recently been working on the Caterpillar in a very limited scope to support the command module feature. And that sort of highlighted just how old that asset is. Again, like you said, every ship we do, we learn from.
I'm gonna throw this bone out here for the Caterpillar. I was discussing this, and maybe we don't implement them back then and never bother to correct that. One of the things I would like to see, or would be very useful for the Caterpillar, because supposedly it's those compartments were supposed to implement modularity, and I'd say one of those interesting. I think here's an interesting module. You have it's a box shape. So you would have a Cargo Max modular system for the Caterpillar. So in other words, you set cargo not just on the floor, you can set the cargo grid is on the ceiling, sides of the walls, and on the floor. So basically, within reason, you can attach the cargo on all 4 sides inside of that compartment. The floor, the sides, and the walls. And I mean, the floor, the walls, and the ceiling. Cargo Max. 07 Ruffers. Thank you. So that would be really cool to maximize within reason and within the right sizing of that for that cargo grid module for the Caterpillar, a max cargo grid module. I would love that for the Caterpillar.
So going back to something that at this point is probably about 10 years old was quite an experience for some of the artists who worked on it. And yes, we still want to do modules. The Caterpillar, as you know it and love it, will look broadly the same.
Couldn't they take aspects of the Ironclad and bring it, like take the library or the new assets that is the Ironclad and reconfigure it into the newer or the gold standard of the Caterpillar? Is that a possibility? I would say go for it.
We do that, but expect it to be brought up internally to the current standard that you see in the Ironclad.
That's the clue right there.
Modules you're considering?
We never officially disclosed any, I believe, but
Go ahead, John.
Broadside.
but
Broadside.
there will obviously be a cargo one.
I don't give a
Obviously.
crap about a broadside module.
A
I'm sure
weapon
there will be a combat
module.
one.
Broadside. I want cannons, the
Yeah,
doors
turrets.
open, cannons on
Rolls
the
cannons out.
I want broad, or if it's got to be on one side, and then we got to turn around like an old sailing ship, like to do the other side. Broadside cannons.
I would love to do broadside
Plasma
cannons.
cannon or something.
Scientific
Laser.
model.
You heard it here. John Crew commits to doing broadside module for Caterpillar. He committed to it.
Oh gosh.
Him wanting to do it is the same as Money in the Bank.
Other modules will be available.
Medical. You definitely need a medical.
So here's a good follow-up question. What criteria does a ship need to meet before being selected for a rework or a Mark II?
Not working.
Okay, multiple layers to that. So obviously, it needs to sort of have reached a point where it just isn't fulfilling its role in the game. And we'll use the Aurora
I
Mark
agree,
I
Ruffers.
as the
I
example here, because that had both a gold standard and a Mark II. So the Aurora, one of the first 5 ships in the game, it had changes quite a long time ago, but Star Citizen now as a game compared to where it was, say, 5 years ago is very different. The missions are different, the gameplay is different, and what we wanted to do with that ship just couldn't be done with what the Mark I was without fundamentally changing it. So at that point, we decided, let's upgrade the Mark I to current methodologies of how we build ships, make it look really good, give it as much as we physically can in the space we have available. That's gold standard. You can play the game with it now. You can competently do things. You can't do everything. And again, it's a starship. You don't want it. Not all ships should be able to do everything. It gives you a great taste of the game. Mark II, same ethos, current styling visuals. So Mark IIs are for where the Mark I is fine, but we want to radically change the visuals primarily of the ship. Mark I Hornet to Mark II Hornet, both medium fighters,
Say Aurora.
both have pretty terrifying gun loadouts,
Say Aurora.
visually very different. Aurora's the same, very visually different. As to how and when, primarily that's a resources point of view. There's only so many people that work on ships. They can't do everything all at the same time.
I want to say something about the Hornet, the original Hornet and the Mark II. The variants in that, I really like that in the sense of it falls in line a little bit where it's a slight variation, but it is still that Hornet. And I think it was a great opportunity. It was, lightning in a bottle moment because the original Hornet is tankier. So I at some point when they do introduce Maelstrom, and it can lend itself to be that tanky type of fighter that can take a lot more damage. I love that in the Mark I or the original Hornet, as opposed to the Mark II, which is slimmer, narrower. It's more agile, but it's not as tanky. It's more responsive, but it cannot take the amount of damage that the Mark I would be able, that could handle. With that said, there's value in both. I think that's when I say, that's what I'm saying, lightning in the bottle, because you can still utilize both for those different aspects of how you play the game. If you're going in and you want to tank, that's Mark I. If you go in, you want to do some dog fighting and you're implementing damage and you're getting out and you want to be quick, that's the Mark II. Now, when you talk about a radical difference, I think it doesn't always have to be a radical difference. I think it could be a slight variations based on that example that I showed you or talked to you about with the Hornet. Whereas in some instances, you do go the route of going or being very radically different, such as the Aurora to the original Aurora. And the feedback was, oh, they stole the Scorpius, right? But to me, it's obvious that you see that because of the wing formation and how the wings spread out. But for me, it was more of, it worked for me because I know that at some point they're going to introduce flight atmospherics, right? So it worked well. To me, it seems like it would fit well in that narrative of controlled, physicalized surfaces. So now we have an Aurora that can fly in atmosphere and is very fuel efficient and agile. Whereas the Aurora, the original, I think that, like I said earlier, the VTOL should be the key feature of that ship in the atmosphere, where the engines are really dialed in, they're ramped up, you feel the physicality of the VTOLs because it's literally a brick in the sky. So those aspects I love. So it can be radically different or it can be slightly different based on the purpose. So you leave the door open to interpretation based on the ship and what it does, and not have to force a block into a circle. Mark II Mustang, exactly. The Mustang, more of a fortified type of ship. It's not as agile, but tanky. Still, you have that wonderful view. Or you can go radically different, and that view is a hologram. It becomes a huge metallic tank, right? Radically different. Or the aspects of the Mustang, the original version, it flies, in line, straight line, right? Had some speed capabilities. Mark II, it could be a hovercraft specialist. It can hover, it can pivot, like a land speeder or something when it gets lower to the ground. So you're doing that free flight and you have this great view. I would love that aspect of the Mustang. Thanks for bringing that up, Ruffers.
You have to pick and choose. We're doing the Kraken at the moment. That's a big investment of time with people. If we
All
weren't
hands on
doing
deck.
that,
It's time.
we could do a lot more
2018.
smaller things. So again, at the director and executive level, we're deciding almost like a year in advance where we spend our tokens to develop things. So we have to hit that criteria of there's a valid need for it.
This tells me that the vehicle team is going to ramp up. I suspect, like when we saw the Pit Bull, we saw the Starlight. I suspect that was onboarding of new vehicle team members, and that was a project for them to get acclimated to making ships. I wonder about that, but I would so welcome it, because that means that they can close out the backlog and then proceed to go further with, as you saw in the Xi'an Bar Citizens, Aaron said, we're going underwater. I want my submersible. I've been calling for this since 2014. I want my submersibles.
Do we have the staff available to do it? And also, is it sort of something the community wants?
Make it smaller, Ruffers.
Not to dismiss
target.
some ships over other ones, there's
Good
more
stuff.
value to things like the Aurora and the Hornet that have been here a long time, getting a gold standard and a Mark II than a more modern ship.
It's
One more. The Reliant is definitely in need of some love. I mean, sadly speaking, it needs some love. What I would do with the Reliant, the original one, right? They have the variants, the Sin, the Mako. What is that? The Reliant Sin, the Reliant Mako is the news van. I'm going to earn that in game. And the Reliant Tana, right? The Sin is the science. The Tana is the fighter. And the Mako is the news van, where it gives video footage. You can take news shots and project and tell about things that happen in real time in the game. But the original, I would say, the original, I would say, when it goes into that vertical, that configuration, it should be close to the Drake Herald as far as speed in one shot, one line of speed. That would be very cool. And then when it goes into the horizontal position, it's used for mostly in atmospheric flight. It's nimble, agile. Clean it up, raise the roof on it a bit. It would be wonderful. And I would do that with the other variants, right? But with those other variants, highlight its functionalities, leave them alone, but the original, bring it some love with those functionalities of interceptor speed and then atmospheric flight capabilities.
You say most of the 2027 ship schedule is
Tana,
already
yes.
set, so that's how far ahead of time many of these decisions are.
And with the Tana, if you want to give it some love, that globe, you can bring some modularity to that aspect. You can change it out for ballistics. You can change it out for projectile missiles, rocket missiles, right? Or heavy duty laser beams, right? Definitely.
Made. Sometimes we can fudge a little bit.
Yeah,
here
we
and
try very
swap
hard. Like
something out.
when we start a ship, we don't stop it because it's
try.
We try. There are occasions.
Banu Merchant.
Oh,
We try.
man.
But it can be very disruptive internally for like stopping. Like, are we releasing this? Or are we not releasing this? Are we stopping? Are we starting? So once we start something, we try and see it through all the way to the
Fair
end.
enough.
And some of these ships can be 6, 12, 18 months for development. So I could say
bigger
here
they
today,
are.
we're gonna do X ship. You might not hear about that for another year or so.
All right.
Hence why we see smaller ships.
Please improve gamepad support for Star Citizen. The current PlayStation controller key bindings are completely non-functional, and Xbox controller key bindings and curve settings also have significant problems. The controller configuration and overall gamepad compatibility needs to be completely reworked.
This goes
Now,
with the flight model,
this
right?
is one of those things. I remember
Is
We
this
did the holiday.
Wait a minute. Is this Chris complaining? All right, Chris, I love you, man. But is that you complaining?
Live stream, not that one.
This is
A
BS.
different one
about
in
the holiday.
2015, whatnot,
This is BS.
where Chris played the game live, and he played on a
Oh.
gamepad. You played Star Citizen, on a gamepad. I play Baldur's Gate 3, whatnot. I play it on PC. I still prefer to play it on a gamepad, even when I'm playing on PC. It's for some people, it is just the preferred control scheme.
Nothing wrong with that.
What, if anything, are we doing to support gamepad?
So there, again, for Squadron, because like you say, tons of people play PC games with controllers, and I do it myself personally, is that I connect my DualShock controllers up to my PC so I can play it, and
Same
then
here,
when I go to my
regardless.
PS5, I'm not having to muscle memory relearn everything. So there's been a lot of work on the Squadron side to improve that will
wow.
come back to Star Citizen. Again, it's not just why doesn't someone just copy the file from here to here
Have
and
it
make it
easy.
work?
Yeah.
The flight systems are different, the hints are different. It's a very different, tailored experience.
wow.
It won't just like work out the box. So it does need some fine tuning. Again, the flight model is different in Squadron to where it is right now in Star Citizen. The quantum experience is different for where it is right now in Star Citizen. So you can't just copy it over. But a lot of work has been done to make that experience be better,
wow.
and for a whole range of other peripherals. It's not just the big ones.
Oh, really
it's just
cool.
for
If you can say one thing, is like Star Citizen is very supportive on all
Yeah.
the different
Compared to a
peripherals
lot
that
of other-
exist.
Yes, yeah.
I think as long as Chris is a champion, of course, but I really it's Benoit. As long as Benoit is here, this man, I've never met anybody that's more engaged by peripherals and any piece of interactive tech, whether it's Tobii or whether it's VR or whatever, or it's D-Box and whatnot. It's whatever we can do to
Enhance.
allow
Yep.
people to play this game the way that they want to play is going to be a priority
That's
from
the beauty of
our
Star
technical
Citizen.
teams.
That's the
and stuff
beauty
like
of
that.
it.
So, and that includes gamepads, but not at the exclusion of full sim rigs and stuff. It's
Yeah.
we want to. Maybe we're silly, but we want to
Keep
do
it
it all
welcoming.
we believe we can.
Keep it
So,
welcoming. Yeah.
All right, Torsten.
What?
Oh no.
Now I want to be clear that I'm just reading the question here. This isn't.
Okay.
The existing armor mechanics are fundamentally ill-suited for future gameplay. No matter how the numbers are tuned, armor will never behave realistically in actual combat. It amounts to nothing more than a single hit point bar. Armor should be diversified. For example, providing immunity against ballistic weapons size 4 and below, while energy weapons size 2 and above could deal heavy damage to armor. Thank you for listening to my ideas. No, he didn't say that. I
Oh,
added
nice.
that.
D-Bots.
What are your plans?
Is Maelstrom in part of this? The Maelstrom system.
So some of the stated ideas in that statement should already be true. So energy weapons are more efficient
wow.
against armors in comparison to ballistic weapons. Maybe the difference is not that distinctive, so that's something that we have been working on for the 4.8 release.
There it is.
There are some changes coming in for the 4.8 release, as I think we already stated at the beginning of this show, that hopefully fixes some of the major concerns. For example, a very prominent one that just popped into my head is a Scorpius cannot damage a Scorpius. So Scorpius
What?
fighting Scorpius is an infinite fight, except using missiles.
Oh wow.
But so the armor system that we put in is as much effort as we put into it and make it right. It is justice, and just is even the wrong word. It's a stopgap filler for Maelstrom. Maelstrom is the
Yes.
system we always wanted to achieve. We have
There we
been
go.
advertising Maelstrom for ages at this point as
Yeah.
the real physicalized materials that impact, or like we go for a full physical damage model rather than a health bar model. So
There you go.
everyone that dislikes health bars, not a thing anymore
Arcade,
with Maelstrom. But as long as we are not at that point yet. We at least want to see how the game feels once we get
Tech
like the
preview.
full experience of Maelstrom.
Tech preview,
And
Torsten.
one of that feel is the armor. The armor right now is a very binary system. I do agree. It is by intent though, because we wanted to have this clear distinction between certain projectiles will just ricochet off of your armor. And
the types of armor.
sure, there are things that we have been even discussing in our, like I've been mentioning it a lot, but this is the topic we are talking about in our vehicle leadership group. As with all the other things, we don't want to overdo with changes, right? So for 4.8, we want to iterate over what we got. And the iteration is basically fixing all the issues there with the inconsistency between certain fighters not damaging each other, certain weapons not being clear enough as an advantage over the others. But overall, I think at least what this statement said is like, I feel comfortable in saying at least the majority of that statement we will have in a better state in 4.8. They are just things that we cannot do with the armor system that we have right now. Like I've seen, like people reached out to me with a lot of suggestions. They are good suggestions. I don't disagree, but that means we need to invest more time into that. We need to derail some other feature work that we are doing. So there's a lot of considerations, and I think what we have right now is something we can build on, we can improve, and
we didn't too much wasted work while you're waiting for Maelstrom.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, that's the big topic. We cannot.
You know, every minute you put into this is work that has to be replaced when Maelstrom comes in. So not every minute, but
yeah,
so in other words, why try to dial all this up to a finite, completed version that's deemed it's fine, but then all that time you spent putting that in and implementing it and getting it worked, you could have been refining Maelstrom or working on something else totally, like such as maybe a type of armor that holds power packs or batteries, and it projects an aurora of energy that kind of reduces the damage from energy weapons, right? Ballistics would definitely be hitting hard on it, but energy weapons, it's minimal at best when you're using a piece of armor that is like a halo of energy, and it kind of softens the blow of the other energy weapons, laser weapons. Something like that could be worked on as opposed to trying to dial in armor when you know very well Maelstrom is on the way.
There's going to be some calculus here.
At least we try to be smart about some decisions that we take now, so we don't have to.
So it's always the problem. I mean, John, you and I have done enough of these shows where it's like we would love to do that, but we know we'd have to replace that afterwards. So rather than do work that you know you have to throw out, let's work on things that we know actually have a chance at staying and continuing. And I was surprised when I saw the armor stuff go in because I knew, I thought we were doing Maelstrom and stuff. But again, it's like there are experiences that can be tested now. There's data that can be gathered now by doing this work with armor today while you're waiting for Maelstrom. Like I said, you wanted to test out how this feels and that feels. You can get that feedback now without having to wait for Maelstrom, and then maybe it would affect certain things with Maelstrom.
Yeah, I can already say that some of the observations and some of the feedback that we got definitely ended up on our notes list for Maelstrom once it comes to the PU. So some things that we see that are where the armor system is already a direct copy of how Maelstrom works.
But keep in mind, as they're talking about armor in general, it scales up or it translates immediately right over to the hull of a ship. Maelstrom will affect that as well. So it translates or it scales perfectly. So even though they're still waiting for that mechanic, it's kind of like you kill two birds with one stone in the aspects of armor degradation, armor density, right, from 100% all the way down to near zero failure. It translates. It has the possibility to translate well over to the physicalized surfaces, your actual cargo that you carry, and the hull density and damage level of your ship, which will then in turn trigger you to go to look for more refined materials and or to just get basic materials to keep insurance premiums from going sky high because your ship is destroyed.
But then we notice, okay, we have to adjust those. So we already have nodes for
Too many
Maelstrom
times.
to be adjusted exactly the way that we are
many
adjusting
times,
the armor system. So it helps us in the long run. So we have to spend less time in iterating over the Maelstrom system because we are already doing that in a different system, but it's the same.
Yeah. And for those who might take this like, well, if that's how it was, then this must not mean very good for Squadron. Again, single player, curated experience, massively multiplayer online,
Meaningful
space
gameplay.
Game. The distinctions are night and day. It can work wonderfully for the curated experience that we're building there, and just not here, which is where all the additional
Telling
work
of a
comes from.
story, interactive story.
Now that PDCs, point defense cannons, or point defense turrets, and we tried to call them PDTs, but it's hard to rebrand something.
love someone,
now that PDTs
assault.
with automated combat functionality have been implemented, will the auto turret drones deployed by something like the Aegis Nautilus work in similar fashion?
It should.
So drones are a big topic for us, and that is base building. So I think we talked about that in CitizenCon. Where did we show?
A little bit.
So no, drones are a key or an essential part
Wait a minute, did John just said he watched that?
for base building. And the moment that we have that tech, that opens up all the opportunities for, again, right?
So many ships.
So many ships. So it's basically, again, like from crafting, base building, into drones, into opening up for all the features that we have ships with.
Yeah,
So-
and for that very specific Nautilus turret mine example, yes, you would have the drone side of it, but also the turret on it would function how PDTs work. But there's also things we want to do to PDTs between now and then to make them better. At the moment, they're very binary, like they're powered, they do whatever they want. We want to give you the control of like, maybe don't auto-engage immediately, maybe wait for
Or
me to
select
have
the
confirmation.
target.
Only
Or select the
target,
target.
select things,
you
ignore
go.
this. Like, don't target fighters, don't waste your ammo on fighters, only go for torpedoes or
There you
change.
go. I like that,
internally they have
John. I like that.
A fixed threat order of like, do torpedoes first, then do missiles,
Perfect.
then do ships,
Some
then do other
intelligence.
things.
He's putting some
And
intelligence
maybe you don't want that
behind it.
order. Maybe you want to have ships first, and you don't want to have them. We want to give players that control.
Give that control to the players via the UI interface. So if you're in that situation, maybe turrets that's near the ground or something of that nature, or fighters or capital ships or turrets. Yeah, that works.
You have that on your PDTs, and then on a drone, and then in the Nautilus. Then it's a much more compelling experience.
The money you give
Interactive.
me the ability to set my target priorities for my PDTs, I'm just
It's another station for an actual player to man in multi-crew ship aspects of combat or whatever the case. You fill a seat. You give a player on the ship something to do. I love it. Even though I don't have the ship, I love it for the player who owns or backed or pledged for that ship because they love the idea. Good stuff.
taken something with like 15 some odd PDTs like theaters or whatever, and I'm setting it only for people, and I'm flying over Jumptown and just being like,
God. I knew it.
I'm just
I
gonna
knew
fly
it.
upside down right over Jumptown. Just be like, no, of course I'm not taking my Idris upside down, but you get the idea. 890 jump has a lot of PDTs on it, doesn't it?
Kraken full of MDTs.
Oh yeah, Kraken with the MDTs, with the MDCs on top, or yeah. Rich, anybody, ground vehicles. Like honestly,
my
this
favorite
is the
subject.
question. Just ground vehicles.
Genesis. We need the Genesis.
We talked about ground vehicles almost as long as we've talked about the next version of the flight model.
Yeah.
Like,
So the two things are connected. So we wanted to complete what we think is the new flight experience first before we moved our resources onto the ground vehicles.
I'm about to use
That
Coffee's
was like 3 years ago now. We did
statement.
do a
I'm gonna,
update in a very limited
How
slot.
many
time
times have we
to
heard that?
to introduce a new time model, some new suspension physics, and just generally how they behave. Now, by going this route of how the flight model behaves in terms of going for realism, but accessibility and just the thing feeling good in the game, it made the ground vehicles better, but also introduced some of the problems of the ground vehicles because we freed up the physics to react more kind of realistically, which inherently makes them look unrealistic at times because we're hitting solid objects with the bottom of the vehicle or with the suspension kind of funny, and the vehicles would do strange things. And that's just down to the fact that we've got work to do. So we've got a framework of the ground vehicles, and interesting enough, we've got a meeting very, very soon to discuss the kind of ground vehicle 1.0 plan of what we want to achieve with ground vehicles. Because as we do base building, we do combined arms, the ground vehicles are going to become even more important for the universe.
Where's my Ranger, man? My motorcycle. Who pledged for the motorcycle? The Ranger, man. I want that.
So we've got a plan to improve the time model, the suspension, but just the general way that the vehicles interact with our world.
Genesis.
It's when you hit rocks and stuff, the vehicles don't flip over and crash all the time and feel very strange. You feel like they don't have mass because the vehicles do have mass, but the force that is generated is a very hard force. It's a very kind of simple calculation of just you hit objects,
arcade.
force generated, force is applied to the ground vehicle. But we're going to start controlling that so it feels much more natural. And also, we're looking at converting the ground vehicles to the exact same systems that the spaceships work on as well. So they'll have an engine, power plant, and everything will work as a normal Star Citizen vehicle does as well.
Damage,
and this
fuel.
overall will have a much more kind of natural feeling ground vehicle in the end, once we get some time to work on the physics of, just how it interacts with the world, and I'm kind of excited by that, which will hopefully allow us to do more interesting gameplay and for the vehicles to kind of
actually
be
have a
able to do
purpose.
more, just be able to do more in the game and have that purpose where, so you can go take your ballista, park it somewhere and have it in the right spot that you want it so you can use it for that purpose.
Actually, we had, there was this, I forgot the name, like the big facilities we have on the ground.
We need those
Distribution
sources.
Thank you. Distribution centers. Those were like our first intent of making ground vehicles more viable because we equipped those distribution centers with very effective turrets so that you should land further out. Our planet environments weren't built for that. So we had a bumpy road ride.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems the ground vehicles have are the very beautiful looking planets.
Yes.
They talked about that the vehicles are going to make the comeback in Genesis. They're, placing the rocks in a certain way that you're still, they're going to be there, but but it's going to be easier for you to traverse with a vehicle. And just like the river guy said, if you run into a rock, it's your own fault.
We don't have nice roads on because part of it is they're not habitable or
Genesis.
I can't think of the word. Civilized with infrastructure, so there isn't roads there. And a lot of people underestimate the scale of Star Citizen, and they're bombing along in their Cyclone, which they don't realise makes like a Humvee look small. And they hit what they think is a small rock, but if you stood next to it in real life, it's 2 meters tall. So a vehicle traveling 40 meters a second, hitting something that essentially has infinite mass in how it is in the world. In the real world, you'll just go pancake into it, but our vehicles have mass. That thing doesn't have mass. Like Rich talked about, it was changed to a more realistic model, and then we had to rapidly change it because the physical forces that were being imparted on the vehicles was just insane. So there's lots of
Adjustments.
things we've had to do to tone it down.
Yeah, it's one of those things like Star Citizens. Is it a spaceship game? Is it an FPS game? It's an Rich Shire will tell you it's an everything game. And that's what we're attempting to do. That has to include ground vehicles. Yep. I think ground vehicles have been sort of in this unfortunate kind of side shunt over here. They've never really found their purpose in the verse, and it's like when I saw something like Stormbreaker for the first time, like I was excited now that that a big area that doesn't allow you to fly ships in and stuff like this. I'm like, great, do something like that where you can do vehicles, and like imagine the entire patch content was ground vehicle related. You had to do the entire patch content in ground vehicles and stuff like this.
Another instance on where you could or should use ground vehicles, and it's probably in one of the upcoming locations that we've yet to get our hands on, and that would be Castra. There could be some form of realism with Castra when we're talking about why would I use ground vehicles. I would say use those ground vehicles or you have to use those ground vehicles because if you cannot sustain hoverability around those mountains. You can fly, but you're going to fight the stick a little bit because you're going to feel those winds push, that upper atmosphere, those mountain areas. It should be windy. And if you try to hover, it's going to grab you and slam you into the mountains. So in that aspect of where and when do you use those ground vehicles, you land the ship at a distance from those mountains. You take out a ground vehicle, you go to the base of that ground vehicle, and at some point we have rappel or something or variant of the crossbow to like a what is that thing? A grapnel, and you can pull yourself up, do some mountain climbing, and go inside of the side of a mountain like Tomb Raider, right? So in that instance, that would be wonderful to utilize ground vehicles in that way because mountains and the wind and the clouds, visibility is very dangerous flying around. I would welcome that in Castra.
And the answer I got back from creative director Ian Leyland was, we'd love to, but playing in ground vehicles right now isn't that great. So if you do an entire patch content that requires everybody to roll around in ground vehicles, you better make sure the ground vehicles are fun and actually work the way. So it's just
also another area I would say, kind of like if you watch the Star Wars movie when Anakin became Darth Vader and they were on this planet where it was magma everywhere, flying over that you have heat geysers and things of that nature that would instantly destroy your ship. And the balance in that would be is you take maybe a rock or a ground vehicle and travel and find hand minables, very valuable ones, in those volcanic locations, as opposed to flying over those zones, right? So there's zones that you don't fly over because of the heat dissipation, right? Or those heat geysers. But with the ground vehicle, you can maneuver and move around, drive around those geysers and things of that nature using a vehicle. That's another aspect where I would use ground vehicles and make it a thing of we got to have these, because then if we're mining or extracting hand minables, they're highly valuable, high quality, that would bring people with vehicles over to that location. Definitely got to do that. 07.
That's another smaller dream. First dream is the big giant, battlecruiser kind of thing, commanding the field. The second thing is I just love an entire content drop that is ground vehicle
Yeah,
related.
I
You
want
can't
them-
bring ships.
Want them to be just as good as the ships,
Yeah.
and that maybe to the point where you never even want a ship. You're just content with your base built location, ground vehicles, tooling around, doing all the game loops with ground vehicles.
Adding to that, even it's like, so right now it's
Yes,
like also not
coffee.
the most like convenient thing to
I'll
call
take
your
the high
ground
ground
vehicle.
coffee.
So that is something that we have on our list also for ages at this point, which is ground vehicles
that,
through
I'll
freight
take the high
elevator
ground.
or nested spawning of ships with
07.
ground vehicles. So good news is we have been working on that, but like
Torsten was another thing, another aspect, like distribution centers, expanding that out to where that's like a hub where it leads you into these underground facilities that are cities unto themselves. And the only way to traverse through those, like they have the lower depths, but make a city that's underground. The entrance would be the distribution center. So you don't fly in there. You'll have landing pads, right? But then you go into the hangar and then you call up your ground vehicle and you drive through those underground facilities or those cities that's underground, certain locations or a moon or a planet or something. Based on the atmosphere that's outside, you have to tuck your ship in. I kind of looked at what they did with one of the locations in Nyx. It's very acidic, I believe. It's very toxic. It's not good for the being exposed. So in order to live, you had to build things underground. So everyone goes about their business underground with the different various vehicles. So there's another aspect of it, because Star Citizen introduces the strange and unknown and the explorable. So there's so many ways you can draw out the vehicle experience based on criteria like that.
yeah, I was about to say, yeah, we proved it with the Atlas, but the Atlas is
Not technically a vehicle.
it's technically not a vehicle, but no, it has been on our list for quite some time. Because the moment that we allow ground vehicles to be more comfortably stored or pulled up and then being stored in your ship, yeah, I think they also will be used naturally more than what they are right now. Because right now it's, pardon my French, it's a bit of a pain.
The Atlas is not technically a vehicle. It's a very large person you crawl into.
Yeah.
The Atlas brand. And
yeah,
it's
I
going to
said
do
those
base building. There's a base building.
I think we got time
version of it.
for a couple more here. Refueling, passenger transport, retail, and escort gameplay all have functionality but lack player motivation. How will you make players genuinely want to engage with these?
Server FPS for
news.
NPCs.
Refueling.
Finish for one of those.
At least for one of those. Now we are aware that
We need NPCs, Torsten.
sometimes you need extrinsic motivation to try out gameplay loops in our game, and refueling is one of the few ones that we like. When we released it for the first time, there were a lot of because it's a new gameplay. People were coming up with their own goals. They organized themselves. We even had a brief moment where the fuel rats came into our game and were distributing fuel. They left again, but I think at least I've stopped noticing them there. But anyway, derailing. So it worked for a short time. Like with all intrinsic urges you have, it's like it's a smaller time frame rather than you get external reward. And yeah, for the next patch, there is finally some external rewards for that, because we will introduce refueling missions. So that will be all the owners of Starfarers and other refueling ships will be allowed to refuel stranded NPCs. So if an NPC ran out of fuel, they will pop up a mission, and you in your Starfarer or fuel giving ship will be able to head over there and refuel them. So there is suddenly a purpose on.
There's one problem I have with refuel, and I think it's a real life or real world issue. You all have witnessed and seen this, and I think it would feed into some sort of realism in Star Citizen. Right now, it's unrealistic with refueling. The gameplay mechanics is a little flat, or it's lacking the full implemented loop of refueling. How many of you have actually seen you come to a gas station, whether it's early in the morning or something, and you actually see the tractor that's connecting the hose into the ground, and they're actually pumping gas into the tank, filling it up? Again, that's one of the aspects of that I would love to see in Star Citizen as far as refuel. Chris, hope you're watching, but like with the Starfarer, whether it's extracting hydrogen fuel, you go to fuel scoop from these gas giants, then you go back to some of the stations, and there's a special docking location specifically for the Starfarer, and you offload that whole haul of hydrogen, and the station in real time have real missions or mission givers that says, hey, we're halfway empty of fuel. We are drastically low on fuel because we have so many people or NPCs that are utilizing the fuel, whether it's quantum or hydrogen, and it gives out mission givers. And so the lower they are, the higher amount you can actually attain by helping refill those stations with hydrogen and quantanium fuels. So I want to see that game loop fully fleshed out with mission givers for Star Citizen. I think that would be it would go very well with a more focused and realistic gameplay loop for refuel. Not just you go and provide fuel and then you go to a station and fill up. No, you go to a gas giant, fuel scoop hydrogen, and find some way to work with maybe a refinery ship like the Expanse and extract the quantanium and turn it into fuel itself as well. That would be interesting. Some way to find out if you can, let's say it's not mining the ore, but let's say there's trapped gases that's in the rocks or the asteroids that have the gases of quantanium, and as opposed to the mining laser, you can extract as well, but you're pulling the gases. You're extracting the gases as opposed to the ore. So it's a slightly different process, but almost the same principle. And then you can condense it back into a liquid form, right? The station will do that. So I would love to see that with further iteration of that with the Starfarer Gemini, eventually with the Starlight, and then eventually with the Vulcan. Come on, Chris.
You and your Starfarer or fuel-giving ship,
Or other ships.
other fuel-giving ship that might have seen a sneak peek of in the weekly newsletter last week or the week after. Well, it depends on when you're watching this. I think this episode doesn't air for the full community until the 14th or something.
Well, we have the Starfarer Gemini. I just didn't want to say the Gemini.
The only time we've ever had a variant produced by a different manufacturer.
True.
Although I just saw on the website it's still listed under MISC. It's not listed under Aegis. Fix that. Like he's in charge of the website. He's not
I'll
in
go
charge
fix
of
the website.
He's not in charge of the website at all. All right, folks. That's it for the show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in.
Very entertaining.
If you're the fine folks watching in Xi'an, China, thank you for taking the time to take this and localize it with subtitles for the viewers. We always like doing this show for you guys out there. And then if you're watching at home or in your car or wherever later, we hope you have found the information helpful and useful and worthwhile. For the show, I'm Jared. That was John. That's Torsten. That's Rich. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with another show soon. I think technically it might actually be tomorrow by the time this actually airs. Calendars. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
07s. 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 Guys, thanks for tuning in. I want to do this tomorrow. Have more time to stream, man. Have more stream time on my hands. I definitely want to do that clip of the Xi'an Bar Citizen. There was a lot revealed. A lot of stuff was just they were winging some things. I'm not gonna point that out, but yeah, I want to bring that up too, and bring some points up about that. But awesome, thank you for tuning in. I'm gonna call it this evening, but I'm thinking I want to do some gameplay tomorrow. Probably. My question is, will the event hall be available tomorrow? I don't know. I have to find out if that is possible, or if that's a thing. I wouldn't mind just going around the event center and giving that a go. For sure. That would be cool. I think I want to do that. That would be fun. All right. Pretty good, y'all. Pretty good. Thanks for tuning in. Bite Size, thank you for the raid. Thanks for the follow, Ruffers. Coffee, always a pleasure, man. Thank you. Everybody in chat, let's go. 4.8 is on the way. I hope you find something to your liking in the game as far as a ship offering. Defense Con, it's coming. For the people, baby. For the people. For the hard workers. That is awesome. You're awesome. This would not be possible without you all believing in this dream. You're making it happen. 07, y'all. I'm going to see y'all early on the next one, okay? I'm going to do some gameplay. But I definitely want to do that Xi'an Bar Citizen. Coffee, thank you, man. We're both going to pick up that bit pool. Much love to you all. Much love to you all, man. You all make the dream a reality. Holy smokes. Thank you so much. 07.
It's about that bottom line, baby.
Have a wonderful evening, man. It's the weekend, y'all. I gotta get some refinery going, some crafting going, man, some materials and some blueprints. What the hell am I doing, man? I gotta catch up. I'm gonna be stuck behind.
It's about that bottom line, baby.
Yeah, I want to catch up. Some gameplay tomorrow for sure. For sure. Let's go. Hype train incoming! Oh my God, a hype train! Oh my gosh, 07s.